We are live now.
1 to 7.
Very good evening. I extend my warm and heartfelt welcome to all respected chief guests, guests of honor, and esteemed faculties. Next slide, please. Abhishek, the theme of today's webinar is medico-legal aspects of OBGYN practice, and it is presented in joint collaboration of Obstetrics and Gynec Societies of Adur, LAPP, Calicut, Kannanur, Kochi, Kasaragod, Kollam, Kottayam, Perinthalmana, Trivandrum, Malanadu, Pune, New Mumbai, Pandharpur, Devli Savangi, Vidarbha Isoparb, and Corona Remedies. Next, please. So let us go to Ma Saraswati and seek her blessings. I request all of you to kindly join for the online inauguration of this webinar. Sound, Abhishek.
നമ്മുടെ പിക്ചറിൽ വന്നെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ വീഡിയോ ക്ലിക്ക് ആ പടത്തിൽ ഒന്ന് ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്താൽ
The convener of today's webinar is Dr. Surekha Taide. She is the president of Isoparb Chapter Vidarbha and Devli Savangi Obstetrics and Gynec Society. Next, please. And the chief guest for today's webinar are Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir and respected Dr. Ajit sir, and guests of honor are Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar madam and Dr. Venu Gopal sir. I would like to request Dr. Surekha Taide madam to kindly address the house with her presidential address and also introduce her as the chief guest and the guests of honor.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi. Live as if you would die tomorrow and learn as if you would live forever. So here we are again, the Isoparb Vidarbha chapter and Devli Savangi OBGY Society with all the societies of Kerala, Adur, Alappi, Calicut, Kannanur, Cochin, Kasaragod, Kollam, Kottayam, Perinthalma, Thrissur, Trivandrum, Malanadu, Navi Mumbai, and Pandharpur. These are the two societies from Maharashtra who has joined, as well as Devli Savangi OBGY Society. It is our pleasure to inform the August gathering that we have the Isoparb Vidarbha chapter has been going to various states with a lot of academic activities, especially focusing on women's health issues and also the fetal issues. So we have been talking about fetal surveillance, then intrapartum care, labor care guide, CTG, obstetric ultrasound, Doppler in obstetrics. And now here we are with medico-legal issues in OBGYN with all the Kerala societies. So we are very much honored and privileged as today we have come here to learn from all of you and, update ourselves with experts who have joined us today and to give their pearls of wisdom. So welcome to the chief guest, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir and Dr. Ajit sir, and also to our guests of honor, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar madam and Dr. Venu Gopal. Our speakers for today, Dr. MC Patel sir, and we also have the debate with Dr. Rahul and Dr. Ajay Mane. Mamla Adalat mein hai, that will be led by Dr. Manish Machwe, and we are having a wonderful panel on medico-legal issues of OBGYN. With that, I would like to introduce to the august audience a charismatic person, a person who is an institution in himself, a teacher, trainer, mentor, successful Ophoxian, not only nationally, but internationally. He has represented all of us in international forums. He is mentor to many of us. And of course, he is the doyen of medical legal aspects. And he has been consulting and helping Ophoxians throughout his life in medical, legal, and ethical issues faced by the Foxians. Sir is the director of Gupte Hospital, chairman at FICO Committee for Ethical and Professional Aspects of Human Reproduction and Women's Health, past president of Foxy and Dipsy, Secretary General of World Justice Organization, past member of the Central Supervisory Board of PCP&DT Act, member of Ethics Committee of MCI, and past chairman of the Ethics Committee of Maharashtra Medical Council, national coordinator for the National Eclampsia Registry. He was the associate professor in VJ Medical College, Pune, and since then he has been teaching, training each one of us, especially related to medical legal issues. We have heard him in so many forums of justosis, and of course, the Center for Research and Reproduction, wonderful work has been being done there, and also sir has been sharing so much of all his the clinical research work he has been doing with all of us. Sir, we are very much honored to have you here with us, and we welcome you here for your guidance, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Surekha, for that very kind introduction, and congratulations for this wonderful webinar. We have such wonderful experts here, and the whole of Kerala societies and societies from Maharashtra and Vidarbha and everywhere. And I think medical legal aspects has always been an important issue and coming to the fore more and more. And as the time passed, you would realize that in 90s, even the judges didn't know much about medical legalities, and of course, doctors also knew less. And that's why, in a way, it was kind of simpler to sort out the issues in the courts. But now not only the judges know, the doctors also know, but the lawyers know, and they have studied the medical legalities in details. And that's why they go through all the cases threadbare, and it becomes more difficult to defend the case in the court of law. But fortunately for us, we have such experts here like Manish Matswe, and then of course our Doyen MC Patel, and Ajay Mane, and so many. So today we'll be discussing in detail, and I hope there will be some probing questions. For example, when we talk of MTP law, it has changed. We discuss about MTP law and the changes. But on the ground level, what happens is, some things are very difficult to, actually practice. Suppose you are supposed to keep the, confidentiality of the patient. That means nowhere on the paper the patient's name should be there. But then what happens when you do ultrasound? You have to have her name there because PCP&DT wants a name and phone number and everything to be there. So these are the tricky things. And when you are asked for these records later on, then which records to be, whether we should provide the records with the name on them, without the name on them. So that becomes a lot of confusing things, and I'm sure the experts today will discuss such difficult situation, and I would be very happy to listen to them, and also maybe ask these questions in between with your permission. And so nice to have everyone. Dr. Ajit, then the guest of honors like Dr. Sunita, who is from my own society here, the president of POGS, and everyone together. And I think let's go on for this wonderful session of medical legalities.
Thank you very much, sir. And we are pleased that you'll be staying with us. And again, a lot of questions will be there, and they are there in our minds. So hope that we'll have an interactive session. So thank you very much, sir. And now we take the pleasure to introduce our next chief guest, Dr. Ajit. Sir, first of all, we would like to congratulate you and all the Kerala societies and consultants and all the practitioners, whoever who have contributed so well in reducing the MMR has come down to 30, and that is such a huge achievement. And I think it is an inspiration, motivation for all of us, and you deserve a standing ovation for all the work being done in the field regarding maternal death audit, regarding maternal near miss, EMOC, such a lot of work, sir. So congratulations from all of us. And yes, just to introduce formally to sir, we all of us know how you have been leading from the front in all the aspects. Sir is MD, DGO, DNB and FRCOG, additional professor and HOD of OBGYN at GMC Kannur, Pariyaram, president of Kerala Federation of OBGYNs, coordinator of the Maternal Near Miss Committee of KFOG, past vice president also of KFOG, past chair of the research committee of KFOG, and past president of Kannur OBGY Society, fellow representative to AICC RCOG South Zone. Sir, we are very much honored and we would like to hear from you.
Thank you, Dr. Surekha. Good evening, all. Respected seniors, dear friends. At the outset, I thank Dr. Surekha and Dr. Rashmi for inviting me for this webinar. And along with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, sir, a vibrant leader, and we have guest of honor, Dr. Sunita, and our own secretary, Dr. Venu. And today have excellent faculties like MC Patel, sir, then Radhamani Madam, Shaijas, Dr. Manish, Dr. Lashmi, Dr. Raju, Dr. Pramila, Dr. Jaya, Dr. Mitra Saxena. So, again, I don't know what to say. I thank you very much for making me a chief guest. I don't know whether I deserve that. Thank you very much. Eager to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We need to learn so much humility and such a lot of work done, and we really need to learn from you, sir, how to work and be from the ground level, how to work. So thank you very much for the inspiration for all of us. And with that, I would like to introduce our guest of honor for today's event, a person who is larger than life, who we are, we have been participating, we have been benefiting for the last 1 year. Madam has been doing mammoth work. So Dr. Sunita Tandurkar, madam, has been, we have seen the kind of work she has been doing, and the work, only one word, I think sky is the only limit for you, madam, when you lead your team, from the front. That is what I think we have learned from you. And of course, for years together, you have been working in Foxy, but I think the last 1 year, what you have presented yourself, I think, and has benefited each one of us. Head of Department and Chief of IVF at the Endoscopy Center at Ruby Hall, advisor and consultant at D.Y. Patil IVF and Endoscopy Center, founder and medical director of Solo Clinic of IVF, and a founder and medical director of the Solo Stem Cells. Extraordinary achievement of Madam is India's first stem cell baby and world's first at age of 45 in 2018 from her clinic. She's the president of POEGS, and that is what I was talking about, the mammoth work being done. Chairperson, founder, honorary secretary of ISAR, MSR, second vice president of ISAR, president of IEG in 1920, vice president West Zone of Foxy, elected board member of ISDE, reviewer and advisor of the JHRC, that's the Journal of Human Reproductive Sciences, authored number of books and 68 keynote, 270 orations. So, and invited faculty to 24 international conferences and so many awards, madam. I think more to come and more work from you. And please guide us by your pearls of wisdom.
Thank you, Surekha. Thank you so much for your such a kind and lovely words. Yeah. I'm watching you, the way you appreciate. Surekha, last time when I happened to read your card and I saw your degrees and I gave a call and I said, I absolutely bow in front of you. The amount of degrees, including the PhD you have, it's a proud that in Maharashtra, we have the gynecologist of that caliber. Today, being a president of Vidarbha, Isoparb, you have connected entire Kerala with you. And it was so lovely to see Dr. Ajit, because last week only he's received Star Award from POGS. And thank you, Shaijus, for helping us out. Today's your topic is medical legal aspect. And let me tell you, again, a proud moment for India and for Pune especially, because Dr. Sanjay Gupta is the one who absolutely got this medical legal into the blood of a foxy in more than a decade, now near 2 decades. And everyone in the country used to look upon for any problem to Dr. Sanjay Gupta, even today. Being in a Pune, it becomes more handy for us. COVID pandemic has taught us to come together digitally, but otherwise, for us, we used to feel more powerful because Dr. Gupta belongs to Pune. Easy approachability was the thing. And then he just made Dr. Dilip Walke enter into the medical legal. Then Dr. Manish Machwe came. So Pune is known for a medical legal experts in the field because of Dr. Gupta and his followers and successors. Today, I saw Dr. M.C. Patel, Dr. Ajay Mane, all these are the pioneers now. They are becoming in their state and in their cities, and they are entering the Foxy. Definitely, every one of them has made the Foxy very strong into the medical legal cell. But as Sir said, we need to discuss many basic practical reality. And today's your webinar, you have very wisely designed this entire scientific program. And Dr. Rashmi, you are working so beautifully with her. You were coordinating so well. It's really appreciable. Venu, thank you so much being meeting me again and again on various platforms. The Kerala Society, sir, you have led the maternal mortality. Everyone is talking. I request you continue this model and help us in other states also. Of course, Maharashtra was also one of on the better side, but UP, Rajasthan, all these states also needs. And I think this global platform of webinar is here to stay, even if the COVID will go off, and we will take advantage of each other's knowledge, experience to improve ourselves. Thank you, Surekha, once more, and I wish you all the best for this continuous activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita ma'am, for those wonderful words. And you have been appreciating and encouraging me for past so many years. And I thank you really, and for that, I'm really grateful.
You deserve that, dear. You deserve that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And we would now like to welcome our other guest of honor, Dr. Venu Gopal. And again, sir, I would like to personally congratulate you for all the work being done. Like Sunita ma'am has said, we want you to lead other states also. Of course, you have been doing in so many forums. We have heard you, but please continue this very good work. And I think we would be now leading globally also with all the challenges we have faced and the strategies we have found out, the solutions we have found out. So Dr. Venu Gopal is a consultant ART specialist, ARMC IVF Fertility Center at Thrissur. He is the Secretary General of Kerala Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecology. He is also the Secretary of Kerala Chapter of IFS and convener of the Andrology SIG of IFS. Sir, waiting for your address.
Respected seniors, my dear friends, first, Dr. Surekha, I thank you very much, and Isoparb with Vidarbha chapter. I am humbled by this opportunity to see myself in the same frame as people whom I idolized growing up. Sanjay Gupta sir, Sunita Tandalwadkar madam, so many. I from the state of Kerala now, but then I've done my MD from Maharashtra. So I'm I'm so much happy, to see Dr. Manish here, Dr. Dilip, all of you. So thank you very much for that opportunity. You have congratulated the Kerala state for achievements in reduction of maternal mortality. I'm also so happy that the state of Maharashtra is not very far behind. I think congratulations to all of you. After all, we are a very close-knit community, and I think statistics are just, they're just a small part of the whole thing. After all, we are committed to women's health. I've learned my obstetrics and gynecology in Maharashtra. I'm very appreciative of the system in Maharashtra too. So thank you very much for that. Regarding today's meeting, I think it is a felt need of the hour about medico-legal issues in obstetrics and gynec practice. I can see a very impressive array of experts. Patel sir, Manish is there. I can see Dilip Walke sir. So many people in this very impressive program. I wish the program all success and all cooperation. I'm happy that all our societies have joined in this wonderful program. So on behalf of us at the Kerala Federation, thank you very much for involving all of us and all our cooperation with all of you. Best wishes, and I wish the program all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Venu Gopal and Dr. Ajit and all the Kerala OBGYN societies. It was a very short notice, I think only 10 days that we could get all of the people together and organize this webinar. So thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts, myself and Dr. Rashmi here and the Vidarbha Isoparb team also. So we move ahead, and before we begin the academic session, I would like Dr. Lakshmi Srikhande to say a few words. She is the immediate past president of Isoparb Vidarbha chapter, and I must say that all the credit of the work done in Isoparb and the place where Isoparb Vidarbha chapter goes to Dr. Lakshmi Srikhande. So Madam is again our mentor and guide for Vidarbha Isoparb and all the work we are doing. So Dr. Lakshmi Srikhande, who is now the chairperson elect of ICOG, we invite you for a few words, ma'am. Madam is there? Lakshmi, ma'am? I think she must have got engaged with some patient. We will seek her blessings when she comes back to us. With that, I would like to hand over to Dr. Rashmi for the academic session.
Thank you very much, Surekha, madam. And before we move on to our academic session, let me introduce the convener of this program, Dr. Surekha Taide, to the house. Dr. Surekha Taide, she is a professor and unit in charge, Devli Samangi Medical College, Obstetrics and Gynecology Department. With more than 20 research projects, I must say she's an actual mentor, teacher, guide, and hardcore academician. She's a trailblazer and a great influencer for her UG and PG students. With great degree of clinical acumen, I must inform all of you that she is involved in majority of community health care programs for women welfare. With this introduction, I would like to move on to the academic session. And Abhishek, if you please put
Thank you,
the
Rashmi.
next program. The session 1 is MTP amendments. And the speaker for this session is none other than Dr. M.C. Patel, sir. And the respected chairpersons for this session are Dr. Shaijus P. and Dr. Dhakavendra Prasad. I would like to introduce respected chairpersons to the house. Next, please, Abhishek. Dr. Shaijus is chairperson of Midlife Management Committee, FOXY, and Joint Secretary, Kerala Federation of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. He is past chairperson, Research Committee of Kerala Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and President, Kannur of Obstetrics and Gynec Society, Kannur, Kerala. He is fertility specialist and gynec laparoscopic surgeon with a vast range of all the academic and social awards to his body. I welcome you, Dr. Shaijus.
Thank you.
The next chairperson for this session is Dr. Dhakavendra Prasad. He is the Director of Infertility and Fitomaternal Unit, Sunrise Hospital, Kanagar, and he's an Executive Director in ARMC IVF, Mangalore. I welcome you, Dr. Dhakavendra Prasad, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to hand over the session to the respected chairpersons.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi.
Dr. Shaijus, is chairperson of Midlife Management Committee, FOXY, and Joint Secretary, Kerala Federation of Obstetricians and Gynecology, and President, Kannur of Obstetricians and Gynecology, and President, Kannur, Kerala. He is fertility specialist and gynec laparoscopic surgeon with a vast range of all the academic and social awards to his body. I welcome you, Dr. Shaijus.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Surekha, as well as Dr. Rashmi, for this wonderful opportunity. I think myself and Dr. Prasad are privileged to chair the session. First of all, thank you so much, Isoparb, Vidarbha chapter, and Dioli Savangi Obigain Society. I think it's basically double happiness. One happiness is when you all talk about the good things that Kerala has done in the field of maternal mortality, and a lot of cuteness and happiness when you all take the effort to pronounce these names of the Kerala societies. I think they are sounding much better than how we pronounce. So thank you for all that effort that you take to go across the country and associate and collaborate. I think the beauty of this collaboration that is coming in, especially during the tough COVID times, I think this webinar series has opened up that opportunity. So it's such happiness, and I think it's a real privilege to actually see Sanjay Gupte sir, Ajit sir, who's our own mentor from Kannur, Venu sir, who has led KFOC to some real good heights. Wonderful to see Sunita madam and the entire set of faculties that we have. Such a privilege to see Dr. Manish sir. We are all eagerly waiting to hear from you. So coming on to the session, I think such a privilege.
We have MC sir's slide.
Yeah, can we have such a privilege to introduce MC Patel sir? I think even before I made my footmarks in Foxy, this is one person whom I knew very well. A person who stood out from the crowd, always had a helping hand, and had that big smile on his face, and still continues to do so. I'm so happy that I'm having this privilege of introducing him today. MC Patel sir is the consultant obstetrician, and most importantly, that extremely wonderful combination, right, of a gynecologist knowing law. So that is what sir is all about. Sir has been the vice president of Foxy in 2018, the organizing secretary of AICOG 2017, the chairperson of the Ethics and Medical Legal Committee between 2011 to 2013, the honorable joint secretary of the State Organization of Gynecologists of Gujarat. A lot more things to talk about him. I think much more than that, I think he has been a mentor figure for a lot of us, has been shedding, medical legal scenarios is something which every obstetrician is really concerned about. I think people like him and Dr. Geetendra Sharma and all have taken that extra effort, following the footsteps of seniors like Sanjay Gupte sir in enlightening obstetricians. I think now any obstetrician you see anywhere in the country, they all know a little bit about what is happening on the medical legal side too. I think it's credit to all these wonderful people. So it's a privilege to hear from you, sir, on MTP amendments. I think everybody is eagerly looking forward to this lecture. Dr. Prasad, any comments from you before we hand it over to MC Patel, sir?
I think I had the privilege last time of introducing MC Patel, sir, for some one more webinar. So anyway, there's nothing much, because it's a pleasure always to hear him speak, and he makes the topic much more entertaining also.
Thank you, Dr. Dhakavendra Prasad and Saijas, for a kind introduction. Greetings from Statue of Unity, tallest statue of world, and we all are proud of that statue. Warm welcome all the delegates, and wishing you a litigation-free practice. At the outset, I would like to thank Isoparb Vidarbha chapter and Dr. Surekha Taide in particular for inviting me to share my views about the subject, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971, then Amendment 2003, then 2020, and amended rules 2021. So what gynecologists should know? So usually I start my talk with this question: is it worth discussing? Yes. And if it is yes, then why? Because as far as abortion services are concerned, worldwide 22 million unsafe abortions are performed each year. In India, 7 million abortions conducted annually, and 50% of this estimated to be illegal. And rate of maternal death due to complication from unsafe abortions are almost 8%. And if you go with statistic from Lancet, then 44% of world's annual 227 million pregnancies are unintended, 56% end into abortion, 32% in an unplanned birth, 12% in miscarriage, and unsafe abortions cause 8 to 11% of global maternal death and occur predominantly in low income and middle income countries where the most restrictive access policies are concentrated and socio-economical factors further affect the access. But as far as our part is concerned, India is concerned, we are much liberal as far as abortion services are concerned. But unluckily, we gynecologists rank first as far as medico-legal consequences are concerned. And that is why we should know law, at least pertaining to our practice. Let us say that this is very important case decided in city of Mumbai only. MTP done, no sonography done before MTP, incomplete abortion, case was filed. Inference held by the court was MTP without sonography is as good as open heart surgery without angiography, and compensation of worth rupees 2.85 lakhs was awarded in favor of patient and relative. And question was, is sonography mandatory for MTP? Let us see one more case and then we will discuss. In this case, again, this case was also for MTP, laminaria tank was used, there was bleeding. Ultimately, diagnosis came to cervical pregnancy, hysterectomy was done, allegation on part of patient, no consent taken, sonography was not advised, inference held by the court, tent is an accepted method, sonography is a question of opinion, hysterectomy was life-saving, specimen not sent for HP is no negligence, how much to rely upon expert evidence is up to the court, and difference of opinion doesn't amount to negligence. So in this case, doctor was not taken into liability. He was not held liable. So in first case, sonography not done prior MTP, doctor was held liable. In second case, sonography was not done prior MTP, doctor was not held liable. So can prior sonography give guarantee not to have incomplete abortion? For first case, which was decided in city of Mumbai only, and sonography was not done and it ended into incomplete abortion. But prior sonography cannot give guarantee not to have incomplete abortion. And one more thing, in MTP Act, nowhere it is written that sonography is mandatory. But though sonography is not mandatory, but it is advisable as far as MTP services are concerned to rule out certain conditions like ectopic pregnancy or cervical pregnancy or scar ectopic or so. So before we go with this, then if sonography is done, it will be always in our favor. Let us see one more interesting case where things went wrong. In this particular case, this is also real case, happened in city of Ahmedabad. Couple visits gynecologist for MTP. Following consent, MTP was done in 2003. There was quarrel in the family. So patient filed complaints against in-laws and allegation was it was forceful abortion and case was filed in 2004. Doctor was called in the court as a witness and court asked for some records, consent taken in Form C, etc. But for any reason, doctor couldn't produce those records in the court and court ordered to arrest doctor from the court only under section 312 of Indian Penal Code. So doctor was arrested and put behind the bar. After 3 days, party had a compromise, case was withdrawn. So doctor was free from bar. So $1 million question comes, can one be prosecuted under Indian Penal Code section 312 to 316 are concerned? So it is very specifically mentioned in MTP Act, notwithstanding anything contained in Indian Penal Code, a registered medical practitioner shall not be guilty of any offense under that code or any other law for time being in force if any pregnancy is terminated by him in accordance with provision of this act. So here word accordance is very much important. So if any pregnancy is terminated in accordance with the provisions of MTP Act, then Indian Penal Code section 312 to 316 will not be applied. So we should be very careful as far as provision of MTP Acts are concerned. Before this MTP Act 1971, abortion services are absolutely prohibited. and no consideration for any circumstances whatsoever, and required or compelled the woman to procure abortion was the presumption on part of law. And abortion or induced miscarriage under purview of Indian Penal Code section 312 and 316 were tried before this MTP Act 1971, and both were considered guilty. Person performing abortion or causing miscarriage, or woman undergoing abortion. And excuses were only two: abortion done in good faith and in order to save life of patient. So if it was immediate necessary to save life of patient, then only there was excuse. Otherwise, both were considered guilty as far as abortion services are concerned before this MTP Act 1971. So let us see which are these Indian Penal Code sections. Section 312, causing miscarriage or abortion with or without consent of pregnant woman. So even if you have taken consent of pregnant woman, then also under section 312, trials are conducted. And there is a provision of imprisonment of 3 to 7 years of imprisonment, and of both are considered guilty: person causing miscarriage and pregnant woman. As far as section 313 is concerned, causing miscarriage without consent of pregnant woman, and punishment is up to 10 years imprisonment, and offenders person causing miscarriage. Section 314, act with intent of causing miscarriage resulting in death of woman. Section 315, act with intent of causing death of unborn child or causing a child to die after birth. And section 316, act to cause the death of pregnant woman resulting in death of unborn child. So these are very stringent provisions of punishment as far as section 312 to 316 are concerned. But if you practice MTP as per MTP Act 1971, then all these sections will not be applied. That is why we should know MTP Act very thoroughly and how it could be useful in our favor. As far as this MTP Act is concerned, main objectives of this MTP Act was to liberalize provisions of termination of pregnancy. And this was the very important thing, to protect registered medical practitioner who perform abortion as per provision under this Act. So this Act is mainly to protect a registered medical practitioner who provides abortion services as per provision of MTP Act 1971. And one more area was to keep records of women who undergoes MTP to be secret. So to liberalize, to protect, and to keep secret were three main objectives of MTP Act 1971. And which are the provisions? We should be well aware. Where MTP can be done, we all know. I will be very quick as far as this discussion is concerned. Any established or maintained by government hospital, one can perform MTP there, or any place approved by government or district level committee, but condition need to be satisfied under safe and hygienic condition. One more area, person who can conduct MTP, any registered medical practitioner who is registered with State Medical Council with prescribed experience, and experience will vary as per length of pregnancy. As far as pregnancy up to 12 weeks is concerned, experience of assisting at least 25 MTPs. He must have performed at least 5 MTPs in government hospital or training institution approved by government. MTP from 12 to 24 weeks, completion of 6 months of house surgery in OBGYN, and experience of at least 1 year in OBGYN hospital, one can practice termination up to 24 weeks. But as far as postgraduate degree, diploma, or DNB in OBGYN concerned, experience or training gained during course will be considered. So no extra training is required. So any postgraduate degree, diploma, or DNB in OBGYN is entitled to terminate pregnancy at any gestational age if there is provision in MTP Act. As far as indications are concerned, they are the ground under which patient one can perform MTP. As far as risk to life of pregnant woman, grave injury to her physical or mental health, or child were born physical or mental abnormality, age may be seriously handicapped, pregnancy caused by rape, it is considered grave injury to mental health of woman, and pregnancy due to failure of contraception method by male or female, and it is considered unwanted child presumed and grave injury to mental health of woman. So if you have any ground which are given in MTP Act, you can terminate pregnancy. But at the time of considering the ground, in the deciding the risk of injury to the health, pregnant woman's actual or reasonable foreseeable environment is taken into consideration. So these are the grounds. As far as consent is concerned, if patient is major, if patient is mentally sound, only and only patient can give consent on her behalf. So nobody can else give consent on her behalf. But if she is minor, if she is mentally challenged, then consent of a guardian will be enough. This is prescribed form, that is form C, and consent is to be taken in form C only. So if patient is mentally retired or patient is minor, one more part of form C is there, and consent of guardian should be taken. Instead of form C, can one take consent in usual manner as it is taken in other surgery? No. Of course, you can take a consent in other form also to explain about probable risk or all the details related to procedure of MTP, whether it is surgical or whether it is medical. But this consent taken cannot replace consent to be taken in form C. So you will have to go for two consent, one consent in form C and one more consent in usual form, which we take in other surgery also. Is MTP right of patient? So many a times these are the questions are addressed in many of the discussion. Can woman ask for MTP on demand even if it doesn't fit in indication given in MTP Act? And can one take a base of Article 21 of Constitution, that is right to life and personal liberty? So is MTP right of patient? So in this famous case, it was very specifically mentioned by Honorable Court that MTP Act doesn't confer or recognize any right on any person to perform an abortion or termination of pregnancy. Even the pregnant woman cannot terminate pregnancy except under circumstances mentioned in the Act. And even during first trimester, woman cannot abort at her will and pleasure. And there is no question of abortion on demand. And it was further clarified that section 3 subsection 18 is only an enabling provision of registered medical practitioner from purview of IPC, and court further added that termination of pregnancy under provision of Act is not the rule, but it is only an exception. So it is very clear with this case. As far as opinion is concerned, opinion of registered medical practitioner is to be put on record, and number of opinion will vary according to the stage of pregnancy. Up to 20 weeks of pregnancy with the latest amendment, opinion of one registered medical practitioner will be enough, and it is to be taken in prescribed form, that is form 1. So all the indications are given in that form. You have to strictly mark that indication which is applicable in respective case. As far as records are concerned, form C and form 1 should be kept in envelope. Envelope should be sealed with mark secret, and envelope will contain serial number which is assigned to a woman in MTP register and name of registered medical practitioner who have terminated the pregnancy. And within 3 hours of doing MTP, envelope should be reached to the head of the institution, and they should be kept in safe custody. But this is for hospital where more than one gynecologist are working. If you are only working person in your own hospital, then you can preserve all this form C, form 1 in file also. No need to keep in envelope. So it should be very clear. As far as reporting is concerned, at the end of month, you should report to CDMO, that is Chief District Medical Officer, or any appropriate authority in prescribed form, that is form 2. And in that form 2, only statistics are to be given, and no personal identity of any patient is to be revealed in this monthly reporting form 2. And when this report should be sent to appropriate authority, as said, there is no limit given in MTP Act. As far as PCPNDT Act is concerned, sorry, it is written that at the end of month, you should send all the records within 5 days of completion of the month. But as far as MTP record to be sent are concerned, no specific time limit is given, but it should be sent within reasonable period. As such, there is no definition of reasonable, because it could be 5 days to reasonable to me, and it could be 10 days reasonable to somebody else. But if you can send report within 5 to 10 days at the end of after ending the month, then it could be considered as a reasonable period. This is very important form, that is form 3, or which may call it admission register or MTP register. It is also very secret document, and information therein to be strictly confidential, to be kept in custody of the head of the hospital or owner of the approved place, cannot be open to inspection except in some special circumstances when person is working woman, and if she apply for leave, then you will have to open that register to have some details. But at the same time, when you prescribe this for leave, then you will write to the person, that is employer of the patient, that this is the secret document and you are requested to keep it confidential. And one more area under authority of law, person who is authorized by law can inspect this register. So in any given case, investigating officer authorized by law can open this register. Entries should be serially as per calendar year, and fresh serial shall be started at the Commons Amendment of each calendar year. And it is very clear, once it is decided that this patient is for medical termination of pregnancy, then no entry of name of pregnant woman can be made in case sheet, operation theatre register, follow-up card, any other document. So in all other correspondence, you will have to simply write serial number which is assigned to the patient in MTP register, or that is form 3, just I mentioned. So it should be very clear. Many a time this question is asked: incomplete abortion, inevitable abortion, missed abortion, blighted womb, are they come under purview of MTP Act? No. In RTI in 2012, all those questions which were asked were very clearly answered that they do not come in purview of MTP Act. So no need to enter into MTP register, no need to go for form C, form 1 or any formality, because they do not come under purview of MTP Act. So again, this question was asked, form 1, form C, whether it is to be filled or not. And it was also very specifically clarified. As far as RU 486 is concerned, whether medication abortion done by tablet, that is medical termination of pregnancy by medical method. So in this RTI, it was clear that up to 63 days of pregnancy, one can terminate pregnancy with medical method also. As far as this amendment part is concerned, if patient has worked for 3 months in any gynec hospital, then he can prescribe medical termination of pregnancy by medical method. So it is in amendment rule given. So should gynecologist prescribing medical method should go for form 1, form C? Yes, in this RTI it was clarified, because it is accepted method of medical termination of pregnancy. So all the formalities related to MTP Act's provision should be fulfilled. So form C, form 1, all we should go for. Prescribing RU 486 is one of the procedure or method of MTP. So all the rules and regulation of this act will apply. One more important question: who can prescribe RU 486? Any qualified registered medical practitioner at registered place can prescribe RU 486. Can registered medical practitioner running only consulting room prescribe RU 486? Yes, but he or she should have access at any registered center under MTP Act, and certificate of approval for access should be displayed at conspicuous place. So any person who is running only OPD and who has no indoor facility can also prescribe RU 486 if he or she has access to any registered clinic or hospital where he can have access for any complication related to treatment given by medical method can be taken care of, and if certificate of approval is displayed at her hospital. pregnancy more than 20 weeks. Now it is allowed in certain cases. In amendment, we will see little later on. But as far as offenses and penalties are concerned, it is very obvious. Any person terminating pregnancy any other place other than approved place. So if you terminate pregnancy, even if you are qualified, even if you are gynecologist, but if you have performed termination of pregnancy at unapproved place, and one more area, any person other than registered medical practitioner, person who is not registered medical practitioner, in both this situation, they are liable for imprisonment not less than 2 years, and it may extend up to 7 years. So it should be very clear to all of our gynecologist friends, even if you are qualified, having your degree, diploma, DNB in OBGY, but you cannot terminate pregnancy at unapproved place. So it should be very clear in the mind. Any contravention of requirement of record keeping, only provision of fine of ₹1,000. So as far as record keeping is concerned, this is little liberal provision. But as far as Amendment Act 2020 is concerned and Amended Rule 2021 is concerned, this is chronology, and now this is passed in Government Gazette. It is publicized on 25th of March last year, and now amended rules were passed in Government Gazette on 12th of October 2021. So now it is Amended Act 2020 and Amended Rule 2021. At the time of taken into consideration as far as amendment is concerned, in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, two main points were taken into consideration. There were so many writ petitions seeking for permission for termination of pregnancy in more than 20 weeks of pregnancy in congenital malformation or many times rape victim or sexual assault victim cases. And one more area was also discussed. With advancement of medical technology, now it could be little safer one, even to terminate pregnancy in case of more than 20 weeks. So considering both this point, this amendment came into existence. And what is new? Let us see. This indication was available previously also, failure of contraception. So what is in Amendment Act? Previously, it was available to married woman and to her spouse. But now word married woman is replaced by any woman and her spouse word is replaced by her partner. So now this indication is also available to any woman or her partner. Need not she should be married, even if she is single, even she is widow, even she is unmarried, then also they can have this indication also. As far as opinion is concerned, previously, up to 12 weeks of pregnancy, opinion of one registered medical practitioner was required. With this amendment, opinion of one registered medical practitioner is okay. Up to more than 12 weeks and up to 20 weeks of pregnancy, previously opinion of not less than 2 registered medical practitioners were required. But with this amendment, opinion of one registered medical practitioner is enough in certain situations. More than 20 weeks and less than 20 weeks, previously it was not allowed, but with amendment, now it is allowed with opinion of 2 registered medical practitioners for some categories of pregnant women. Which are those some categories? So merely on opinion of 2 registered medical practitioners, pregnancy cannot be terminated in more than 20 weeks and less than 24 weeks. There are some special categories or special conditions are prescribed. What are they? Survivors of sexual assault or rape or incest, minors, change of marital status during ongoing pregnancy. During ongoing pregnancy, if death of husband occurs, or if she gets judicial separation, or she gets divorce, so it is change of marital status. So in this condition, one can avail this indication of terminating pregnancy more than 20 weeks and less than 24 weeks with opinion of 2 registered medical practitioners. As far as physical disability is concerned, under Indian Act, Disability Act 2016, there is a list of disabilities given. So if any patient fit in that list, then pregnancy can be terminated in case of more than 20 weeks and less than 24 weeks with opinion of 2 registered medical practitioners. Mentally ill woman, including mental retardation, is one more indication in this type of situation. Fetal malformation, which are incompatible with life of fetus, are one more indication to terminate pregnancy more than 20 weeks and less than 24 weeks with opinion of 2 registered medical practitioners. Women with pregnancy in humanitarian settings or disaster or emergency situation, age may be declared by government. It simply means, say for example, in era of COVID-19, there were guidelines on part of government, there should be minimum visit of patient to the hospital. So in this type of situation, specialized situation which are notified by government hospital, where patient is unable to visit hospital frequently and pregnancy is advanced more than 20 weeks. So in this type of situation, pregnancy can be terminated in more than 20 weeks and less than 24 weeks of gestation with opinion of 2 registered medical practitioners. But at the same time, there should be notification on part of government in this type of situation. Is there any new form for pregnancy to be terminated between 20 weeks to 24 weeks? Yes, that is Form E. Previously, we saw Form 1. So up to 20 weeks of pregnancy, we will have to opine in Form 1. And in pregnancy more than 20 weeks and less than 24 weeks, Form E is the very prescribed form. And in this form also, all the indications just I mentioned are given. So you have to simply tick mark which indication is appropriate in this particular case. Pregnancy more than 24 weeks. Previously, it was not allowed, but is there any amendment? Yes. With opinion of medical board, in substantial fetal abnormality, pregnancy can be terminated even in case of more than 24 weeks of pregnancy. But it is purview of medical board to opine. So as far as medical board is concerned, it will be constituted by government, 1 gynecologist, 1 pediatrician, 1 radiologist or sonologist, and such other members government can appoint in respective medical board. Medical board is conferred with powers and is under obligation to have some functions. They can allow or deny termination of pregnancy beyond 24 weeks of gestation in any given situation if they are of opinion. But only after due consideration, they can opine, but at the same time, there should be safety as far as termination part is concerned. So medical board will not opine only that pregnancy should be terminated, but they will have to opine that it will be safer to terminate pregnancy even at the given gestational age. Whether fetal malformation has substantial risk. So medical board can opine if fetal malformations are incompatible with life of fetus. So medical board can opine, and medical board can has been also conferred with power. They can invite any other person for opinion or to come to conclusion in any given situation. So they are given with this power also. As far as their functions are concerned, they will examine patient and all the reports given to them to have an opinion, and it will be in prescribed form, that is Form D, and it should be given within 3 days. So as soon as any medical board received a request for seeking termination of pregnancy in case of more than 24 weeks, then if medical board is of opinion, he will have to give opinion within 3 days. And at the same time, if medical board is of opinion that pregnancy can be terminated and patient is fit to get a pregnancy to be terminated, then that pregnancy should be terminated within 5 days. So these 2 amendments are very good in favor of patient, because in past we have observed that to avail opinion either from court or so, there were days together or months even had been passed to have opinion. But with this amendment, medical board is under obligation to opine within 3 days, and that very pregnancy will be terminated within 5 days of receiving of the application. So this is prescribed form, that is Form D, and in that form, medical board will have to opine name of woman, age, registered number, all the available reports, it will be entered in this Form D. An additional investigation, if medical body is of opinion to go for any additional investigation to come to conclusion, then whichever investigations are advised, it will be entered in this Form D. And medical board will opine whether it is allowed or whether it is denied with justification. If they are allowed to terminate pregnancy, then also they will have to justify. And if they have denied, then also they will have to justify. And they will have to opine also physical fitness of woman for termination of pregnancy, yes or no. And all the members who have opined or name of all these members with their signature, date and time. So this is very prescribed form, that is Form D, and it is to be filled by medical board. But at the same time, medical board has some limitations also, because medical board can only opine in substantial congenital fetal abnormality which are incompatible with fetal life. So if it is not the situation, then medical board cannot opine. Say for example, if it is a case of rape victim, and if it is more than 24 weeks and pregnancy is very normal, medical board cannot opine. So this is limitation on part of a medical board. So in this type of situation, again, one will have to rush to High Court or equivalent fora to seek permission for termination of pregnancy in more than 24 weeks of pregnancy. So writ petition will be the only answer. As far as some certain situations are concerned, anytime during pregnancy can be terminated, even at unregistered place also, if it is immediate necessary to save life of patient. So Section 5 of MTP Act give this liberation, and under Section 5, if it is immediate danger to life of patient, to save life of patient, pregnancy can be terminated at any given gestational age. But burden of proof is on your shoulder to prove whether this indication was applicable or not. So be aware whenever you deal with this type of situation. As far as privacy is concerned, previously it was very much needed as per MTP 1971 is concerned. But with this amendment, there is stringent punishment provision is made. So if there is breach of confidentiality and if personal identity of patient is relieved on part of hospital or by treating doctor, then there is a provision of imprisonment of 1 year, or with fine, or with both is the provision. So we should be very careful not to disclose personal identity of patient once we have offered our abortion services to any patient. As far as transgender part is concerned, MTP Act is silent and this amendment part is also silent. Under Indian Constitution, there are 3 categories of gender: male, female and transgender. And as far as MTP Act is concerned, it addresses only women part. So if with advancement of this medical technology, if any transgender becomes pregnant, and if there is some problem and pregnancy is to be terminated to save life, then in this type of situation, there is this is gray area. So again, one will have to rush to High Court to seek a permission with writ petition. But if it is immediate danger, then without permission also you can terminate pregnancy. So at the time of this amendment, there was a very good discussion in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. There is a need to increase women's access to legal and safe abortion services to reduce maternal mortality and morbidity caused by unsafe abortion and associated complications. But at the same time, there was one study by All India Rural Health Statistics 2018 and 19, which indicated that there are 1,351 gynecologists and obstetricians in community health clinics in rural areas, and there is shortfall of 4,002. So there is almost 75% shortage of qualified doctors, and the shortage of qualified medical professionals may continue to limit access of women to safe abortion services. And one more study was there, only 53% of abortion are performed by registered medical practitioner, and balance are conducted by either nurses, by auxiliary nurse midwife, by DAI or family members, or by self-medications. As far as this new form, that is Form A is concerned, it is required for registration of center. And in case if you have registration up to 12 weeks, and if you now want to renew it up to 24 or even more than that, then only you will have to go for Form A. And it should be very clear. No fresh training certificate required for degree holders in OBGYN, and no fresh registration, reapplication, certification, or inspection of premises required if your center is already registered to terminate pregnancy up to 20 weeks. So it is automatically registered with this amendment. So this is Form A, and at the time of registration, you will have to apply with all requisite documents, whether you want to apply for category E, that is up to 12 weeks, and if category B more than 12 weeks. So in this form, it is given how all this document you have to give. But there are certain issues when this amendment has permitted pregnancy to be terminated in more than 24 weeks, because many a times it is all likely that after termination of pregnancy, fetus could be live, and till fetus dies, then what to do? So can feticide be considered? It is one more area. If baby delivers live, to whom custody should be given? And many a times it may happen that patient and relative are not willing to take custody. Then what if fetus is living? Can we shift patient to, baby to NICU? But in this case, if it is in private sector, then who will pay? As far as government sector is concerned, there is not much issue, but in private sector, it is the issue. And is there any role of police? So these are the questions which are to be discussed with government by association like FOXY, IMA, to make practice much easier one. So to conclude my talk with carry home message, center must be registered, person must be qualified, opinion, pregnancy up to 20 weeks, one registered medical practitioner, from 20 to 24 weeks, not less than 2 registered medical practitioner for some categories, beyond 24 weeks in fetal anomaly, medical board's opinion, beyond 24 weeks, rape victim with normal pregnancy with petition in High Court, writ petition. Valid consent is very much mandatory, and necessary record to be sent to appropriate authority in prescribed form in stipulated time. So comply with the law of land to avail shelter of umbrella of that act, because a small slip can make a big trouble. So an ounce of prevention is worth more than a ton of cure. It is rightly written in Panch Tantra. And see, it doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you do not know how to use them, they will never be enough. This gentleman has so many staircases, but he doesn't know. So same way, if you do not know provision of MTP Act 1971 and this Amendment Act in your favor, then it could be troublesome in few of the cases. So have some basic legal knowledge. Always obtain medical legal advice whenever you are in doubt. So if you want to sleep like this, take tender care of your patient and comply with the provision of MTP Act, and keep my visiting card for ready rec at any time. And you are always welcome to address us. So this is law of leopard behind innocent gynecologist, and see the role of medical legal counselor. So do not hesitate to ask us in any given situation to avail our assistance for any services. So all the best. God bless you. Have a litigation-free medical practice. With regards, salute to all, and Dr. Surekha in particular for inviting me to share my views about the subject. Thank you very much. Please do not assume. Please ask if any query, if any question, if time and chairpersons permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that excellent deliberation, and over to the chairpersons. Shajesh and
yes, Dhakavendra Prasad and Shajesh.
Dhakavendra sir. Sir, you are on mute, Dhakavendra sir. Yes, sir, now we can hear you.
I mean, what sir has told is extremely important as of now, because every day now, even minor things, patients take the privilege and pleasure of harassing us for everything. Even though we may not be directly involved, whatever it is, we are easy scapegoats for everybody. Medical profession has become like an easy scapegoat for everybody. So what sir has told, with what we have understood from what he has told, if we are able to inculcate it in our practice, I think we should be able to have a stress-free life without much of a headache.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is the gist, because whenever you hear sir talk, I mean, it looks very nice to listen, but when we go through the experience of one litigation, we realize that, okay, this is what we could have done better. And with the help, with what consent form sir has done also, I think they have made quite a lot of consent forms.
Proxy uniform consent.
Yeah, the consent forms and what sir has spoken today, if we all are able to practice it the way it should be,
yes,
I think we will have a uneventful obstetric practice.
Yes, so I just also mentioned in my lecture also, if you have terminated pregnancy in accordance with provisions of MTP Act, then you are out of trouble. So you should be well aware with all these provisions and how they can be in our favor as far as MTP services are concerned.
Exactly.
Yes, Sajas?
Strategist is probably having one physical program, so he told me.
No.
Sir, only thing which troubles us and which people are in dilemma about, not revealing the identity. We understand that once we write the form C, everything has to be in the envelope. But regarding, there was directions from the civil surgeon in Vardha that in your MTP record, one register is there. You should write the name and the serial number allotted and keep it in lock and key. Nobody should access it. So is that correct, sir?
Yes, I mentioned during my lecture also in form 3, or which may call it MTP register or admission register. So in that register, all the details of patient will be there. Name of patient, address of patient, whether married, unmarried, age, how much children she has already. So all this and who has given opinion that this pregnancy can be terminated, name of that doctor, who has terminated their pregnancy, all this detail is there in MTP register. But as far as other correspondence are concerned, then you will only mention number, that number which is allotted in that MTP register.
Right, sir. So that is absolutely clear now that nowhere else the identity has to be revealed. Also in the operation theater, your OT register, nowhere the identity will be revealed. Only in the register it should be, and that should be under lock and key. But that key should always be with you. That is what they were saying.
Yes, because you are
cannot keep it somewhere at home and you are in the hospital. That cannot happen, because that is what they asked. Where is the key? If it's not on your person, then again that's a problem.
Surekha, if you permit, there is one question from Sangeeta Menon, madam. What about form E?
She's not able to write.
But I have discussed, and it is available on website also. If you go with MTP Act 1971 and amendment, all those forms which I have prescribed are available on website.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
One more question, sir. What are the privileges given to unmarried pregnant women regarding MTP as per the newest amendment?
So, marital status is not an issue as far as MTP services are concerned. Age is issue. If she is more than 18, then with her consent only we can terminate pregnancy, even if she is unmarried. But if she is less than 18, then again it will be a case of POXO 2012. Right. So again, we will have to be careful to inform police and to take consent of guardian, because she is less than 18 and she cannot give valid consent. So age is the requisite, not marital status.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And then we move on to our next session, which is Mamla Adalat hai. A really thrilling session, and everybody is eagerly awaiting. So over to you, Rashmi.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. Can we have the next slide, please? So moving on to the most interesting Mamla Adalat mein hai, I would like to invite esteemed judge Dr. Dilip Parki sir and moderator Dr. Manish Machwe to this session. I would like to introduce respected Judge Dr. Dilip Palke sir to the House. Slide change, please. Dr. Dilip Palke sir is a consultant Jupiter Hospital and Vitalife Medipoint Hospital. He is a past chairperson of Ethics and Medical Legal Committee FOXY 2007 and 10 and has been president Pune Obstetrics and Gynec Society 1920. Is an advisory board member, Dr. Kraft's Telemedicine Solution, and co-author of FOXY Uniform Consents. I welcome you, sir. The moderator for this Mamla Adalat Mein Hai is Dr. Manish Machwe. He is a gynec endoscopic surgeon and is chairperson of Ethics and Medical Legal Committee FOXY 2020-24. I welcome you, sir. Next slide, please. Dr. Jaya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
It's my privilege and honor to introduce today's clinical experts. The respected clinical expert is Dr. Ritha George, ma'am. Ma'am is currently Associate Professor at Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at MOSA Medical College, Kolinchuri. I welcome you, ma'am. Next slide, please. Second expert is Dr. Sangeeta Menon, ma'am. She is presently working as Additional Professor in Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Government Medical College, Trivandrum. She is currently Secretary of the Trivandrum Obstetrics and Gynecological Society, an active member of the Medical Education Unit. We welcome you, ma'am. Next slide, please. Third clinical expert is Dr. Jyoti Ramesh Chandran, madam. Madam is Professor in Obstetrics and Gynecology, Government Medical College, Wayanad, Kerala. She has been President of the Calicut Obstetrics and Gynecological Society in 2019, 2020, and 21. She is Vice President of the Kerala Federation of Obstetrics and Gynecological Society 2018. She has received Zaveri S. Shah Award at AICC RCOG 2021. I welcome you, ma'am. Next slide, please. Dr. Radhamani K. Ma'am. Ma'am is currently Professor and Head of the Department in Obstetrics and Gynec at Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences. She has received Best Professor Award in Obstetrics and Gynecological Studies in 2019. She is previous President of COG, that is Cochin Obstetrics and Gynecological Society. Madam is Coordinator and Examiner and Assessor of DNB. She is author of Handbook of Obstetrics and Gynecology for VIVA 2018. We welcome you, ma'am. After this brief introduction, I would like to hand over this mic to the clinical experts.
Yeah, we do have some experts as advocates also. Dr. Santosh Jaibai is from Navi Mumbai, Secretary of the from the Navi Mumbai Society, and also he's the medical legal expert. He's doing a lot of work in medical legal issues in OBGYN. So welcome, Dr. Santosh. We also have Dr. Sudesh, who is from Pandharpur, and he is also the secretary of the Pandharpur OBGYN Society with senior obstetrician since last 24 years, chairperson of the Medical Legal Committee of AMOX. Welcome, Dr. Sudesh. We also have Dr. Kunji Moideen, who is the president of the Perinthalma OBGYN Society, basically a ART and gynecology endoscopy expert. He has expressed that he does less of obstetrics, but still I think we have here a person who can talk on as an advocate towards the patient. And we also have Dr. Raju Nair. He is also a reproductive medicine specialist, and he is also doing a lot of work in IVF and ART, and he is from Kottayam. He's the president of the Kottayam OBGYN Society. To welcome all the experts and the advocates, and hand over to you, Dr. Manish.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As is the first, sentence of all webinars, am I heard?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I would just share my screen. And okay, so the second sentence for all webinars is my Ganpati scene.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Make
I'll
it full
put it
screen,
on.
sir.
Yeah, so I will put it on slideshow. Is the Ganpati scene now with a full slideshow?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Very good evening. Thank you, Dr. Surekha Taide madam and Dr. Rashmi Kahar for inviting me for Mamla Adalat Mein Hai. And I've heard I've heard MC Patel sir. I was first time inducted into FOXY as a member of Ethics Medical Legal Committee during his time. बहुत सारे PPT दिलीप वाड़के सर के और गुप्ता सर के चुराए हैं और चुरा चुरा के ही हम लोग सीखे. So I don't feel, you know, any shame in accepting that if whatever I know today is because of the blessings and चुराए हुए PPTs of Gupte sir and Walke sir. So I am very happy that they are here today, and Dr. Ajit sir, Dr. Venu Gopal, Dr. Sunita, and all of you. Let us, you know, go through Mamla Adalat mein. So we will have a very different kind of discussion today. And we were discussing on our groups that, and I put a very clear message that we will discuss cases, and the advocates will tell us how to defend, and the clinicians will tell us where, you know, the doctor went wrong. So we are not going to discuss what section 2 of XYZ Act says, or section 26 or of ABC Act says, which is of no use for this kind of discussion. So you know, and trust me, all the panels that I always do are never made up, so that none of the panelists know even a single slide. So all of them are experts, and even I intend to learn so much from them. Right, and this is our judge. I know, I mean, if you have seen Jolly LLB, I mean, other than the size of Dr. Dilip Palke was probably like this some time ago, but other than the size, the intellect, the way of thinking, and the clarity of thought is superb with Dr. Dilip Palke sir. That is something which I have learned from him. And the expert panelists have already been, you know, introduced. We've put them in two groups, clinicians. So I would, whenever we discuss about the clinical aspects, anybody can speak, but obviously the clinicians have to bear the questions about the issues in clinical practice, and then maybe advocates will tell us whether we can defend this case, or this is straight case of negligence, or any other similar thing which they know from their experience, so that we take home good clinical points and we also take home good legal points. So I also understand that, you know, there are different fora, and different fora have different endpoints. For example, if there is a police complaint, or if there is a complaint to a criminal court, and the criminal court directs the police for investigations, then the endpoint could be imprisonment and fine. If there is a case in the civil court for negligence, there could be damages as compensation. Obviously, in consumer fora, the discussion is on unfair trade practice and consumer service that has gone wrong. State medical councils will, you know, obviously discuss professional misconduct. IMA will discuss professional misconduct. State and Human Rights Commission will also, you know, sort of put some damages, and Lok Adalat will damages and compensation. So I know there are different fora. I understand there is different machinery, but let us keep all this aside. This is just for information of everybody that there are different fora, and the patient can complain in all the fora at the same time. So nobody can say that if you have instituted a police complaint, don't go in consumer court. So we have to just keep at the back of our mind that there are so many different fora. So without much ado, we'll go to cases. All these are real life cases, and let us discuss. So this is case number 1, and I want all the clinicians to please carefully see, and I want your inputs on this. So this is a client, Mrs. ABC, who was having regular ANC checkups with a OBGYN consultant. She did all the investigations. This is cases from a big city in Maharashtra. So whatever investigations were told, she got everything done. I mean, ultrasounds was done almost every month. I know that is being done, which is not required also. But anyway, her NT scan showed NT of 2.6. Anomaly scan was done by a very reputed fetal medicine specialist. And here again, the cost factor comes, because the anomaly scan can be charged anywhere between 1,500 to sometimes 7,000 and 10,000. So 5,000 rupees was charged, and it was normal. At 9th month, she repeatedly complained of discomfort due to large abdomen, but her OBGYN did not pay any attention to it. Ultrasound done at the 9th month showed polyhydramnios. So she received some tablets so that the liquor should reduce and the discomfort should go, but eventually nothing worked. At 36 weeks, she started having labor pains and leaking and was rushed to the hospital. The doctor advised that it's a transverse lie and they need to do a cesarean section. The patient agreed, but the anesthetist came 1 hour after their consent for cesarean section was taken. The baby had fetal distress, birth asphyxia, and the pediatrician also diagnosed a tracheoesophageal fistula. Now, there was nothing available, so the pediatrician shifted the baby in his car to an NICU. On the way, got an X-ray done. 2 days later, the baby was shifted to another big hospital. Baby needed major surgery. There are scar marks over the chest and the face. Baby is still weak and still not able to breastfeed. So I want, before we go into the allegations, which I want advocates to answer, I will again go through the history, take the slide back. I would want any of the clinicians to comment what went wrong, or you think this ANC management was correct or something went wrong. in accordance to what happened later? Anybody can take this question. Please take. Or in your, if this case would have been in your care, what other things you would have checked?
Blood sugars.
This is a pure clinical thing. So
Blood sugars should be checked.
yes, ma'am.
And since there was polyhydramnios, they should have been given a warning that there may be something wrong with the fetus.
Okay.
Sugars are normal.
Yes. So warning was not given. She was repeatedly complaining of discomfort. And only when she said that, okay, I need an ultrasound done, they got an ultrasound with polyhydramnios. I completely agree. Yes. Some test, either DIPSI or sugar, some test, DIPSI is something which is recommended. We have to do in each and every patient because that becomes a, it is that universal screening program that we have. And that was not done. And the patient landed. What about TO fistulas? So another thing is, yes, ma'am. Another thing is the fetal medicine specialist and so many scans done. Do you think this is something which can be, should be missed? So if you see the Fetal Medicine Foundation guidelines, they would give some anomalies that should never be missed. So where does TO fistula figure in all?
TO fistulas are not easy to diagnose on ultrasound.
Okay.
Polyhydramnios will give you an indication that something's wrong with the fetus, which should be one of the differential diagnoses would be a fistula.
Okay. All right. So point number one, we learn is there's some form of testing for gestational diabetes has to be done, especially if the patient has polyhydramnios. You're supposed to at least get a sugar testing done. Point number three, the patient, should be told that all anomalies may not be diagnosed on ultrasound. And I agree, TO fistula is not something which is easily diagnosable. What happens at this, you take, the patient is already leaking and there's already polyhydramnios and you take a consent and you tell cesarean section is needed and you wait for anesthetist for 1 hour. What is the time recommended in which you are supposed to remove the baby once you decide for a cesarean section?
In this patient, it was a transverse lie and the LICA has already gone. The chances of a cord prolapse are there. So it's, I would say it's an emergent cesarean section.
Yes,
so you really can't wait for an anesthetist. And when you have a baby who has polyhydramnios from early pregnancy onwards, from the time of, if the baby has a TO fistula, it is quite likely that the polyhydramnios has been there for quite some time. You may not be able to have actually seen the fistula if your machine was not that good, but the persistent polyhydramnios in the absence of a GDM diagnosis should have alerted the gynecologist to a possible anomaly, and therefore that cesarean section should have been done or that delivery should have been undertaken at a place which has the facility not only for emergent cesarean section but also for pediatric help. You can't just take the baby in a car and then take it to one hospital.
Fantastic.
Yes. Down on the way.
Fantastic.
So it should have been alerting signs right from the beginning.
Thank you so much. So good points brought up by clinicians, testing for GDM, discussing with the patient. And when you have this kind of patient, a tertiary care center where neonatology surgery facilities are immediately available and you can't transfer this baby, especially once the baby is under distress and all. And once you decide to do a cesarean section, please see to it that within 30 minutes, the baby is out. So all the clinicians are of the opinion that something or the other has gone wrong in this case. Right. So these are the allegations. So now I want advocates to come up and tell me how do you defend these allegations? I'll read all the allegations and any of the advocates can take. So demand of 1 crore compensation from fetal medicine specialists because of multiple ultrasounds and the anomaly scan which missed the TO fistula. 1 crore from OBGYN for all the physical and mental trauma that the client had. Anomaly was missed on all ultrasounds. Anomaly scan was normal. Wrong drugs. So this is an allegation. Wrong drugs were given to reduce the liquor. Anesthetist pushed mother's chest to deliver the baby. That is something called as fundal, which our anesthetists give. I know you will say we never give fundal. No, that is not done in our OTs. Cross your heart. Take the name of your first boyfriend or girlfriend. और कसम खा के बोलो कि आप लोग नहीं बोलते हो anesthetic को fundal देने. बोलते हो. And the patient is under spinal anesthesia. She is not under GA, so she understands what is happening. Anesthetist pushed mother's chest to deliver the baby and caused lot of pain. That also for a patient with a baby with a transverse lie. Pediatrician shifted baby in his car without oxygen and putting tubes in baby's mouth damaged the baby's food pipe. So these are all the allegations. One by one, we can ask the advocates, how do you defend, or defending these are very difficult? So we will go to point number 1 and 2, this anomaly which was missed on ultrasound.
Manish, I would like to say one point.
Yes, ma'am.
See, at 36 weeks, actually, the patient is symptomatic with the hydramnios, and the AF is more, definitely it will be more than 30. So in that case, why can't we go for an amnion reduction? And number one, amnion reduction, and then at that time itself, the patient has to send a higher center, tertiary care center, wherein anesthetic facility is there, so that there is no need for wait for the anesthetist to come, and also neonatologist setup, and also pediatric surgeon. This is the role of that obstetrician to make. Definitely, she has to transfer the patient to a tertiary care center so that we are able to do amnion reduction, and then the pregnancy may be for another 1 or 2 weeks. And if diabetic, we can control the diabetes also.
Perfect, ma'am. So I from the clinicians, I got all the points. So now I want the advocates to tell me, these are the allegations. Can we defend, and which way we can defend? Anybody, one of the advocates can start taking. So fetal medicine specialist they charge 5,000 rupees. So I am the, I'll play the devil's advocate. Santosh, I'll play the devil's advocate. My client paid 5,000 rupees to that fetal medicine specialist who was trained in London and such a famous name. And they clearly told me there are no anomalies, and how this TO fistula was missed.
See, the TO fistula is the anomaly which can be missed and which may not be diagnosed in 100% of the cases, even in the expert's hand. This is what the Fetal Medicine Foundation, one of the apex body in fetal imaging, is quoting. So we can, I can take that stand for my client that missing that anomaly may not amount to negligence, because many times this anomaly can be missed even by expert hands and even with the expert machines available. So what we do with imaging is to take our patient as close to the diagnosis as possible, but we cannot assure 100% confirmation without diagnosis.
Okay, so then I would ask that, if there was polyhydramnios, and anyway, sugars were not done. Nobody advised, not even the fetal medicine specialist, nobody advised her to get sugars done. Now, there is polyhydramnios. Nobody even thought that there could be a TO fistula. And my clinician friends told me that that thought they should have in their mind, and they should have shifted the patient to a tertiary care institute at the beginning only, so that these things of, getting the baby in the car, etc., without oxygen would not have happened. So now what defense do I have?
No defense actually.
We can say
yes,
the
sir,
intention of the patient.
Yes, Raju, sir.
Because the patient is being under my care for a long time, even though polyhydramnios is there.
Yes.
I probably thought since a reputed fetal medicine specialist has done the scan and there is no fistula documented, so without any documentary evidence of just a suspicion. So obviously, with my medical knowledge, what all can be done, I tried. And with the facility of a delivery point, with a cesarean facility available, I try to do the cesarean section of the preview, which I am comfortable with. But obviously, the incision to, the decision to incision time should be 30 minutes. That I cannot, because anesthesia on call are not available, or within an hour time came.
Okay, sir.
That is actually a mistake.
Okay, so got your point. We follow the report which was given to us, etc. Now, what about this? The anesthetist tried to push the mother's chest to deliver a baby, and that caused a lot of pain to her and a lot of shouting going on in the OT. Can we defend this?
To deliver anesthesia, anesthetist, sometimes we need the help of to deliver. Sometimes it may be needed. Everything should be the silent in the theater, so patient should not understand what is going on in the theater.
All right.
Precaution definitely we must take.
Okay, so fundal pressure is something which is not unknown to obstetrics. There is a fundal pressure belt available which is developed in Korea, which has a toko into it, and it gives pressure as per the fetal heart. So there is technology in it. Even WHO does not completely condemn it. So it is something which can be used with caution. And it is not there to harm the patient or the baby. It is there to assist the patient and the baby. And to probably we can defend by saying to maintain the, if there's a transverse lie, obviously they would have done an internal podalic version and breech extraction. So it was probably done as a continuous pressure just to see that the head remains flexed. and it does not revert back to the transverse position. So that is something which we can, sort of defend. Okay, so what went wrong? Clinicians told us how to defend. The advocates gave us inputs. Dilip sir, your call. You think this is a case of negligence, or do you think somehow the advocates did good?
Yeah. Manish, if I were the judge for this case, the 2 or 3 things, or maybe more than that, I would have given thought to these points. Number one, I would have asked, with the help of textbook references and expert affidavits, if the devil's lawyer and the lawyer of the doctor had given it to me. One question that I would want them to answer is DIPSI or blood sugar a standard practice?
Yes.
And if that is a standard practice, then as a judge, I would say then the doctor defaulted here. The second question is about counseling for polyhydramnios. I think the doctor here defaulted because there is no documentary evidence that has been shown to me to say that the doctor did do some counseling and told the patient about what polyhydramnios is and what is the ill effect of polyhydramnios and what care has to be taken when a polyhydramnios is diagnosed at 36 weeks. Missing TO fistulas, again, I would go into textbook references and expert affidavits from radiologists to tell me whether missing a TO fistula on ultrasound is something that is just not possible to do, or there are situations in which a TO fistula could be missed. And if I came to know that there is a possibility of missing a TO fistula despite this anomaly scans at 24 weeks or 20 weeks or whatever, then I would give the benefit of doubt to the radiologist. About anesthetist not coming in within an hour, or about this shifting of this patient in a car instead of an ambulance, there while judging, I would give importance to a rule of locality, as we call it in the judicial terms. Wherein if the patient was being delivered in say Cochin, or the patient was being delivered in Nagpur or Amravati or Pune, then I would not accept anybody not telling the patient that this is a high-risk case and then you need to go to a tertiary care hospital. But if this patient was in a village or in a district place, then I would give some benefit of doubt to this obstetrician who did what he could within the limited resources he or she had to manage this case. And about fundal pressure, Manish, I will talk to about fundal pressure. Not as a judge, but I will now speak as an obstetrician. I entirely agree with you, Manish, that fundal pressure is one thing that I use in my practice in almost 80% of the cases, whether it is a vaginal delivery or whether it is a cesarean delivery. And now time has come, Manish, that since you are the ones who are now going to take up important posts in FOXI, what I feel is FOXI should come out with statements to say that we do not condemn. I mean, the statement may be non-committal. I do not want the FOXI to say that we encourage fundal pressure, but at least FOXI can give a statement to sound as if sound a little non-committal. But then if fundal pressure is given in this form, we do not condemn it to something to say that, and that should be there on the FOXI website. So people like the one obstetrician that you told now, and the case that you described, will be saved with this kind of a statement that comes from FOXI. So I think we can come together and devise what an ideal fundal pressure is. A pressure which is not given by fist, a pressure which is given with the help of palm, the pressure which is given at the height of contraction, the pressure is given in such a way that you assist the delivery through the birth canal, and things like that. You can mention it in the FOXI statement, but I think time has come that we need to have it, because otherwise, if I was a judge, and if nothing was presented to me in terms of textbook references or an affidavit to support fundal pressure, I would have considered this obstetrician as negligent for having given fundal pressure.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. So we've brought out a lot of our clinicians have brought out few points. Advocates did bring out point, and thank you, Dr. Dilip Walke, sir, for inducing clarity in your judgment. So we all now know that what things need to be corrected if you have this kind of case. Let's go to the next case. This is another lady, Mrs. Shanti, daily wage worker, wants justice. The future of her 9-month-old daughter is in dark because she is blind. My client had labor pains while she was working in the fields, and at 8 months, so her employer rushed her to a company hospital where she delivered a tiny baby of just over 1 kg. They kept the baby in a hospital for 1 whole month in a lung machine with oxygen tubes and kept on saying that all was well. After a few months, we showed baby to a specialist. The doctor, saw the baby, the ophthalmologist, and declared that the baby is blind. All right. So what are we talking about here? We can go to the clinicians and discuss and what should have been done. Any of the clinicians can take this, no problem.
Yes. Manish.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. For standard, actually, up to 1.2 kg and 34 weeks, there's a high chance of actually ROP. And then actually one thing most important is the oxygen saturation they need is only up to 88 to 92%. The high oxygen supply is one of the cause. Another cause is actually in these babies, we have to counsel the mother that they should bring the newborn 2 weeks after the delivery to show to a ophthalmologist and to find out whether such any chance of a retinal detachment. If it is stage 1, 2, and 3, also it is means self-resolved, and then stage 4 only actually it may go for blindness. So what is needed is actually proper counseling is needed and proper visit to the ophthalmologist is essential, and the neonatologist has to guide them. Even though the world Western standard is 31 weeks and 1.2 kg, the Indian level which is at 34 up to 34 weeks and 1.2 kg.
All right, ma'am. Thank you. So there is something which is not right. The maintaining oxygen saturation unnecessarily high would give rise to neovascularization, and that is something which is not needed. So it results in retinopathy of prematurity.
1 or 2 points also is there actually.
Yes.
They have to take care of the blood transfusion and also infection. That also need to take care of it. Take care of the because there are actually the vessels are not formed in the preterm babies, and so that in the periphery, new vessels are formed from the periphery, and these vessels are very tiny and then dilated, and there is a rupture of these vessels, and then scarring of the retina occurs, and that is the reason why this detachment occurs. So definitely they should have a consultation with the from the 2 weeks, 4 weeks is needed, and this is a role of the neonatologist to tell to the patient.
Yes. Okay. So these are the allegations. No proper care of eyes taken by doctors. Doctor gave unnecessary oxygen to the baby because somebody told oxygen is not needed and oxygen is the reason now. Discharge card given to the patient was in English, so they didn't understand that what follow-up was needed, where they have to take the baby. Doctor did not show baby to any eye specialist on time. Compensation of 25 lakhs for loss of vision of baby and 1 year imprisonment to the doctor because police complaint was also made. So now advocates, how do we defend this? Is there a defense for this, or you would say, I would not take this case, send to somebody else, send to MC Patel, sir?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Here. I think I should open my mouth at least this time.
Yes,
so
please,
no
please.
proper care of eyes taken by doctors, and the doctor gave unnecessary oxygen to the baby. Actually, the prematurity and the low birth weight, just because of prematurity, the baby has to be supported in NICU and has to be supplemented with oxygen. But it has to be documented that how much percentage has been given.
Yes.
And if it is given 100%, of course, it can create all the troubles. And like Dr. Athamani ma'am has told, it should be between around 80%. So that has to be documented, and that can be defended if proper.
All right. So oxygen was not totally unnecessary, but if excess oxygen is not given and it is documented that the saturation was maintained around 90%, we should be good enough. What about discharge card was in English, and that is the reason why they never understood. So does that mean we need to give discharge card in vernacular language, or what should we do? How do you defend this? That is the reason the parents said that is why we never understood that we have to come back with the baby and show the baby's eyes.
Yeah, actually the review instructions, at least that can be in the local language. Need not all the discharge, the summary to be in the local language. The instructions for the review and further care can be in the local language, and it can be explained in their language once upon the discharge time. So that should have been better.
Okay, so one more tip from our clinical friends. Anything more? Doctor did not show baby to eye specialist. So it was, the madam said already that it is the responsibility of the neonatologist to at least show the baby once, and compensation for 25 lakhs. Okay, sir. So what went wrong? Our clinicians told us how to defend. Our advocates gave us some insights. Dilip, sir, what do you want to say about this?
Yeah, in this case, Manish, in this case, it appears as if the doctor has not taken proper care of the premature baby in terms of the fact that unnecessary. I mean, more oxygen was given, and as per the expert affidavits and the textbook references which they may have given to me, I would come to know that the oxygen saturation was maintained for at 100%, which was not necessary. The discharge card being in English is okay to the judge, provided everything was explained in the local language. But however, I just want to draw your attention to this fact, and just a thought of whether our courts can mature to that level. Now, this particular patient is a daily wage worker, and no matter what, even if this patient was managed properly, supposing after the premature birth, the baby was shifted to an NICU and proper care was given, say proper oxygenation was given, a proper discharge card was given, a good follow-up instruction was given, and despite that, there was an ROP. And then since this particular patient is a daily wage laborer, now from the point of view of the doctor, definitely there is going to be no negligence. But from the point of view of this patient who's a daily wage worker, is it not unfair that nothing is given to her in terms of compensation? So what I want to draw your attention to it, and now I think at the level of Foxy, we should now mature enough and start discussing amongst the judiciary about something called as a no claim, I mean, no blame compensation. So here, can we have a judgment? If that was a norm with our consumer courts, then I would have been very happy to give a judgment. Even if the doctor had done everything proper, I would be very happy to give a judgment wherein 25 lakh of compensation I would have given to this daily wage worker. Well, while I would have said that doctor did not do any medical negligence, but just because there is a damage, there is a compensation of 25 lakhs awarded to the patient, despite the fact that there was no medical negligence on the part of the doctor. And as a doctor, I would be willingly happy to pay more premium for such kind of an indemnity policy, if they say that not only we are going to cover your compensation for the medical negligence, but for no blame compensation also. So this is just a thought, a very lateral thinking, Manish, nothing to do with the medical legal issues of the present day, but then just a lateral thought that I thought.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure, Surekha ma'am.
Sir, this no blame compensation, you think that the practitioner should be awarding?
I'll tell you, ma'am. I'll just take this one step further. This is also something called as out of court settlement. It is there in order 22 of CPC. So if both the parties agree, from any suit which is constituted in any court, they can approach the civil court saying that they want a consent decree, which means that the decree or the judgment which they want from the court is accepted by both the parties. There is no negligence, there is no wrongdoing on any part, and then the case is amicably closed. So that is done as a out of court. So always remember, out of court settlement is done in the court.
Manish,
it is not done.
The cost has to be borne by the practitioner. That is what I'm asking.
Exactly. Manish,
so
I want
that is
to come
what
in
sir
here.
was saying. That the
Surekha,
indemnity has to be there.
Yeah, Surekha, what I want to propose is not an out of court settlement where the doctor pays for it. The doctor has not done any negligence. So it is unfair on the doctor, on the part of the doctor, to pay any compensation. So I am not talking about out of court settlement. Out of court settlement, Manish, is a different issue where the doctor is blatantly negligent. Something like a mop left inside the abdomen, something like you having given a drug wherein you know that this drug has got anaphylaxis history in the patient. Patient is allergic to that drug. That is a different issue altogether. I am talking about absolutely no negligence on the part of the doctor, but the patient deserves to be given some compensation because there has been some damage to the patient. And for that, what I am proposing is there should be something in the indemnity. If supposing I am paying, say, 8,000 for an indemnity for covering my medical negligence, I'll be happy to pay 16,000 for not only covering my medical negligence, but for covering this no blame compensations. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We need to discuss this with the indemnity guys. All right, let's go to the, thank you clinicians, advocates and the judge. Let's go to the next case. My client Mrs. PQR is battling depression since she may no longer be able to bear a child. She was a 26-year-old primigravida admitted to Getwell Hospital under so and so. These names are changed, so don't worry, these are not the original names. And she was admitted for an elective LSCS. We wanted our baby planned at around 5:30 a.m. and it was a cesarean delivery on demand. She delivered a cute baby boy. We all were extremely happy. Sometime later, we were informed that the patient was bleeding and urgently needed blood. Only 2 bottles of B negative blood could be arranged. By the time my client's husband reached the hospital, they had removed my patient's uterus. So they shifted immediately. The husband was running around for blood and they did a hysterectomy for her. So my clinician friends, 2 bottles of B negative blood, is this arrangement okay? And if the patient keeps on bleeding, urgently needing blood, do you not do a stepwise devascularization, try for medical treatment first? You directly shift the patient to OT and remove the uterus? So what do clinicians have to say about this case? Clinically, how would you manage? Consider that obviously this points out towards an atonic PPH, and we've also seen in practice that we have also seen in practice that the patients we post for elective LSCS, because they already are not in labor, their uterus is not contracting and retracting, while the patients whom we do an emergency LSCS who are in labor, whose uterus is contracting and retracting, much less likely to undergo atonic PPH than these patients. So what do you do? Yes, ma'am.
Especially negative blood group, that they arrange more blood, because we can't predict who will go for postpartum hemorrhage, and sometimes massive transmission protocols also may be needed. Number one is what time they have did, because all paramedical staffs all are needed, because whenever there is blood transfusion more is needed, should be a director, there should be a runner, and there should be informer to the lab that these are all required. So such facilities that situation is not available at 5:30 a.m. That is another thing. And definitely the person who were doing the surgery definitely called the senior person to assist, and then also they are able to go for the step-by devascularization, and also if you antibiotic uterus, compress uterus, and see whether and all the medication definitely, and see whether the uterus is they become atonicity is corrected, or it become harder, and then only we can put for the bleeding sutures and that to modify bleeding. Or else if the bleeding is not controlled by this, we can, if you are not well versed with by doing internal ligation, you can call the surgeon and they will also come and help you for ligating the internal ligation. Meanwhile, definitely the phone number of the bystander husband should be there with the bystander, and so we had to call the bystander. We had to tell them immediately call, because to save the life of the person, because if the patient is going for hypovolemic shock, DIC will come, and to save the life of the mother, we have to go helplessly. We may have to go for a hysterectomy, but the important thing is definitely we must have the phone number of the husband, or else you immediately call the blood bank. Tell them that you please send a bystander to the theater, immediately the vicinity theater, to inform that this is needed for the patient, to save the life of the patient if such situation occurs.
All right. Okay. So all the clinical points well taken, ma'am. We have to arrange blood properly. We don't have to make the relatives run around. Anticipate the problem. Obviously, call for help. Get some senior person. Stepwise devascularization. Before that, use medical management. You take out the uterus, compression sutures, modify B-Lynch, and all those. Heyman suture can be put. Cho sutures if there is a placental bleeding from the pet. Anything else, Sangeeta ma'am, you want to add?
I was just thinking that in any hospital, I agree, if you're working in a large institution, you may have enough of blood, but in a smaller setup where you do an elective cesarean section, I do agree that 5:30 in the morning is a little awkward, but 2 bottles of B negative blood is more than enough. You really can't predict PPH, but the fact that 2 bottles at least were arranged is good enough.
Okay.
But yes, as Radhamni Madam had said, you need to inform. She's probably under spinal or GA. She can't give a valid consent. You need to inform the bystander. And I think in an emergency situation,
Consent is not required.
Life of the mother.
Yes. Okay. So thank you. So I would turn on to all the advocates now. These are the allegations. So doctor did not arrange enough blood, because even the 2 pints of B negative blood were not enough, and they had to do, the relatives had to do running around. Did hysterectomy without consent of patient or relatives. Took the baby out at the wrong time, which has led to all the complications. We told the baby has to come out at 5:30 and the baby came out at 5:40 or 5:45. So our Guruji has told that it's the wrong time, baby. Patient was given GA and put to sleep to hide what went wrong. Compensation of 1 crore for losing the uterus and chance of having another baby. So any advocate can start with point number 1 and just tell, yes, Santosh, how do you defend? Doctor did not arrange enough blood for my patient.
I think for a primary patient who is posted
Okay,
for
I can give you another information. Her hemoglobin was good. It was 11.5.
a primary gravida posted for elective LSCS. I think arrangement of 2 bloods is more than enough for primary management as such.
All right.
Now, what I feel in this case, the first allegation of doctor did not arrange enough blood. So I can defend it only on the ground that 2 bloods of O negative blood were arranged. And since she is a primary and there are no high risk factors like PIH or polyhydramnios or something.
Cesarean section on maternal demand, no high
And it was an elective cesarean section.
Fantastic.
So
Yes,
massive blood loss was not anticipated, and that was the reason 2 bloods were arranged. As far as the hysterectomy part goes without consent, as has been there on papers, I presume it was a emergency decision taken where none of the relatives were available in the hospital, and with a clear intent to save life of a patient, sacrificing uterus was given a priority over life. So I don't think that amounts to a negligence.
All right. And what do you have to say about, we will not discuss point number 3 because this is irrelevant probably to this discussion. Patient was given GA and put to sleep just to hide what is going wrong. So how do you counter that? It's already given spinal. Why do you want to give GA?
Then no need for GA. Only if the surgery is prolonged only.
That is not, can I say something here?
Yes, Surekha ma'am, sure.
See, that is the, prerogative of the anesthetist. And if the situation demands, and if it's the situation demands that general anesthesia has to be given, then it is the prerogative. He's a specialist and he knows, he has the training in it, so he can take such decisions. So none of the allegations actually would, for these patients are going to stand in the court of law, because the life has been saved. Everything has been done by the clinician to save the life. And in that case, I don't think there is any need of consent. So basically, the outcome is good in this case. Losing the uterus, but this life has been saved.
All right, so good. We've come to case number 3, and now our clinicians are at the consensus that what we have done is correct. In case number 1, our clinicians could find some fault. Case number 2, they found another fault. But now I think clinicians are saying 2 bloods are enough. Consent is not required. Hysterectomy was done to save the life of the lady. And the issues like point number 3 need not be discussed. So what went wrong? How to defend? We discussed. Walke sir, your call on this.
Yeah, first of all, Manish, if I was a female judge, let me tell you that judges tend to be very sensitive about this fact that a female has lost her uterus. So you have to understand that when you are actually writing your written statement when this case goes in the court of law. So first of all, there is a biased opinion about an obstetrician who has removed the uterus of a lady, and now can no longer become mother anymore. So that is there. Having said that, then I would want to again have a look at all the documents. I would like to have a look at all your standard practices, your references and expert affidavits to know whether LSCS on demand is a standard practice. And if it is, then I'm okay with it. But then I would be wanting to know whether proper counseling was done about the advantages and the disadvantages of getting an LSCS done, whether versus whether vaginal delivery was offered or not. Doing the cesarean at 5:30 in the morning, I would be a little, as a judge, I would be a little skeptical about this, because the infrastructure of a hospital, I know as a judge, I may not be a medical person, but I know infrastructure of an hospital is not very good at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. Okay. About cross-matching, whether enough number of blood bottles were arranged or not, 2 are good enough for me. If it is a standard practice, and I've seen that it's a standard practice, all the clinicians said that. But whether cross-matching was done before decision of elective LSCS was taken or not, or whether the patient was sent for, the relative was sent for blood after the bleeding started. So I would be happy to know whether cross-matching was done beforehand, and I would give full credit to the doctor if he or she, especially given the fact that the blood group was B negative, I would have been happy if this particular case was done in a tertiary care hospital, and the blood was cross-matched, and at least 2 bottles of B negative bloods were kept ready. I have got no problems in an emergency LSCS because the doctor did whatever he could to save the life of the patient. Eventually, as a judge, I would give more importance to the life of the patient over the uterus, but then all the documents and all your textbook references and all your expert affidavits should tell me that in this particular situation, it was not possible to do whatever you mentioned, like a devascularization by those stitches that you talked about, those internal iliac artery ligations that somebody spoke about. And the document should prove that this was not possible to do. And in the best interest of the patient, the least that the doctor could do within his limitation to save the life of the patient was to remove the uterus. And if all this can be proved, then definitely there is no negligence in this particular case.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Right. So we go to our second last case. Mrs. Shahane, 30-year-old, is a software engineer, and she was registered for delivery with this reputed obstetrician. She had regular antenatal checkup and did all possible investigations to have a normal baby and a normal delivery. So the center kept on telling her that you will have a normal pregnancy and a normal delivery. A lot of the centers do. If you come across, a lot of patients would come and ask, would I deliver normally? Is my baby normal? And we keep on using this word normal delivery and normal baby. She got admitted on Diwali night with labor pains. Obstetrician saw her once and said everything is normal. And therein after, the sister came and gave her some injection to put her to sleep. She was in labor pains all night. Next day morning, doctor came and told she required emergency section since the baby's heart rate or heartbeat was falling. Patient consented but asked to wait for half an hour till her husband comes because they said nothing is going to happen. So in the morning, after sitting with her throughout the night, the husband had gone home in the morning. Patient was anxious in great agony, required multiple pricks for spinal. She still has back pain because of spinal anesthesia. A healthy 3.5 kg male baby came out and was delivered, and there was thick meconium stained liquor. Pediatrician told that the baby had respiratory problems and needed oxygen. So the relatives were asked and the baby was shifted to NICU for admission. Next day, baby had convulsions, was put on ventilator and discharged after 8 days. At every follow-up for next 1 year, pediatricians kept on saying that baby is fine. We could see that baby was not normal and not even able to sit or walk. So we, searched the net and went to a child neurologist. He did MRI and he said the baby had cerebral palsy, probably due to the decrease in oxygen supply to the brain, what had happened at the time of birth. So clinicians, here is the first page and I put on the second page. What is going wrong here? Anybody can take.
When bradycardia is detected and they posted for emergency section, they have to counsel the patient that it is important to take the baby immediately rather than waiting for the husband to come. Because all these secrets they have to explain to them. Because maybe sometimes it may be a stillborn baby while waiting. That is the first thing fault is that. And throughout night and all, there is no need for obstetrician to sit with the patient. And if there is a CPA machine and all, we have to look for the good nurses. Even in outside our Western countries, the sisters are actually looking after the patient. But here in our setup, definitely there should be a medical officer in charge in the hospital, inside the hospital, in all government medical setup and in teaching institutes. There is a medical officer inside the hospital to see the patient. And there is the obstetrician who is able to manage if the patient wants a consultant to come and deliver the baby, usually they will come near to the time of the delivery. So we have the facility to look up for the fetal heart and also monitor the contractions under partnogram. The first fault is that if the bradycardia they detected, immediately they have to go for the sense to take out the baby within 20 minutes rather than waiting for the husband to come, and this has to be explained to them. Because all this started that from there onwards, the meconium stained liquor and the neonatal care and all, we can't expect 100% survival of the baby.
Yes,
All also there's high chances of cerebral palsy.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Preeta, Dr. Jyoti, ma'am, please comment for some time. I want to ask one question. Is this idea of giving sedation to somebody comes in early labor, that also on a Diwali night, you don't want that patient to bother you? Is it a routine practice? You all give, you all don't give?
Yes, early labor sedation. We also believe in having a companion in labor.
All right,
So
that's a good idea.
that point, even Lakshya is stressing on that.
Yes.
Another thing is normal labor is a retrospective diagnosis. You should not say that you will have a normal delivery.
Okay.
That
All right.
counseled.
Yes. And what about this thick meconium stained lacquer happening the next day morning and, convulsions and everything?
Yes, that's a common problem of pregnancy.
Preeta ma'am, you want to comment on, if you would have probably managed her in a little different way, finish the section before you went for Diwali? Or wait?
Another important thing is,
Yes,
it's an emergency cesarean section. So too many attempt of spinal anesthesia should not be given. Immediately take for a GA and then do the cesarean section. Rather than multiple pricks, spinal that also lost another half an hour. Or more.
Yes, fetal bradycardia also.
Fetal bradycardia, emergency section. So that is
okay.
what the anesthesia again there.
And we have also seen, for whatever it takes, whenever there is a fetal distress or cord prolapse and we want to do a cesarean fast, that is exactly the time when the spinal doesn't set in.
Yeah.
It sometimes happens, and there's nothing wrong with the spine. There's nothing wrong with the anesthetist. Maybe the anxiety, maybe the stress, but it so many times happens. And you are right, ma'am, precious time is lost in that. So you are right. Okay, so since clinicians have brought out some issues, let us go to the allegation. My client has to resign her job and stay home lifelong to take care of the baby. I demand 1 crore compensation because this is a birth asphyxia problem which has led to cerebral palsy, and we have to manage this baby throughout our lives. So, advocates, the case is there in front of you, whatever happened. So, how do you defend this? So, first point could be that there was nobody to actually, Madam. Radhamani madam said that even if there's a CMO in charge or somebody who's monitoring is good enough, the obstetrician may not sit. That point is very well taken, not a problem. But what happens if you give multiple spinal pricks and keep on waiting till bradycardia, then MSL occurs, and how do you defend this, or very difficult to defend? Advocates, anybody can take. Raju sir, anybody can take. This is not an exam, sir. We are just discussing all the answers. Even I don't have. Only Dilip Walke sir has all the answers. So at the end, we are going to ask him only.
The time on which patient was informed about the bradycardia being there, and patient wanted doctor to wait for 30 minutes for her husband to reach hospital.
Yes.
I presume that this fact has been documented by the doctor.
Yes, and was put in his defense also.
Yeah, which may definitely add to some extent to the defense of the doctor.
All right. Okay. Yes. Anybody else? Right. Okay. So we've seen what went wrong, a few things which clinicians have discussed. And one of the points brought out in defense was the delay from the patient side and multiple pricks that can happen at times during spinal. So not very unknown fact. And otherwise, everything else was managed, and thick meconium stained lacquer was unfortunate. A good suctioning was done, and still the baby landed up with meconium aspiration syndrome and birth asphyxia. Dilip sir, your take on it as a judge.
Yeah, Manish, this seems to be basically a case of cerebral palsy, which is being there in the court of law. Now, whenever there is a case of cerebral palsy, it's a habit to blame the actually delivery process. And as a judge, then I would like to actually go through all the record to find out whether giving an assurance for a normal vaginal delivery was good enough, or giving sedation is a standard practice or no, or whether when the proper bradycardia was diagnosed and when there was meconium stain lacquer, whether all the precautions that were needed to be taken in terms of standard practice, whether it was properly done or not. And if one medical expert told us that instead of multiple pricks, it was better that a GA was given, I would take into consideration all these. But then I would also want to know whether there is any way to find out whether cerebral palsy can occur because of some insult that happens during the antenatal period versus a hypoxia that happens during the labor process. So is there anything? And I have, some expert affidavit that has come to me tells me that there is something like scalp pH, there is something like cord pH. So whether that was done in this case, because I would want to now draw your attention to this fact that whenever there is a case of cerebral palsy, can we prove that during our labor process, there was no hypoxia? So can we send the cord blood for pH, or because scalp pH is not available in our country. So the least that we can do, I think, is to send a scalp pH. And I am now stepping out of my role as a judge, and I'm asking the clinicians who are there as our panelists, whether if we start sending cord blood pH for every delivery, or at least high-risk deliveries that we do, and document that there was no hypoxia at the time of delivery, whether that will save us from these cases of cerebral palsy later in the court of law. I am just opening this up as a clinical discussion.
Okay. I think the place of differentiating birth asphyxia from antenatal asphyxia goes on with the color of liquor is one, and Apgar score very important. So Apgar score is something which is still done by the neonatologists, and at birth Apgar, 1 minute Apgar and 5 minutes Apgar. I think now they take 3 times.
I just wanted to know about the opinion of the house about cord blood pH, because there are some hospitals in Pune who have started doing that.
Yes,
so
Sangeeta ma'am.
Say a word there. I think the paired cord blood samples is really a good thing to prove that at birth the baby is not hypoxic.
Okay.
And that is good, but it may not be applicable to all centers.
All right.
But what is applicable to all centers is the fact that labor is monitored with the cardiotocogram. Now, I think that's a basic standard. And documentation of the same to show that there was good baseline variability, no decelerations prior to that time when it was documented. And the time that you take, it depends upon the kind of, if it was a single long, prolonged deceleration, yes, it's a question of a crash cesarean. In that case, you don't wait for husband, you don't wait for spinal, you give a GA and deliver. But suppose there is a small dip that picks up. Very many of us still rely on a spinal anesthesia to get her out of it. We may not wait for the husband, but her consent is more than enough. And I think that should have, I think the documentation of the CTG would go a long way. But yes, if you can have the cord blood paired samples, that's great.
Yeah. So CTG is one, and I just wanted to tell everybody, I have started doing cord blood pH, and it costs just 500 rupees. So at centers where pH can be done, please start doing it, because the cost to the patient is just another 500 rupees. So it's not a big deal if the facilities are available.
That's a good tip. So thank you all for this case. I think we have just time for one more, and then otherwise Dr. Surekha will never call me again. All right. So Mrs.
Collect and retrospectively collect the CTG paper and go through it. That's it.
Okay, ma'am. So this is Mrs. Sapate, 35-year-old lady, G2P1 L1 with previous 9-year-old female, previous normal delivery registered with a reputed OBGYN. She developed diabetes at 28 weeks, and she was put on some drugs and diabetic diet. Blood sugars and other investigations were all normal. At 38 weeks ultrasound, the baby was 3.8 kgs, and the obstetrician told her that she was to be admitted at 40 weeks. She was not able to bear labor pains, but madam assured her that the baby is still slightly big, but we will try for a normal delivery. At the time of delivery, shoulders got stuck and delivered after a lot of fundal pressure and pulling and pushing around. Next day, we saw the baby was not moving the right hand at all. Pediatrician referred to orthopedician, who in turn referred to neurologist and made lot of harmful investigations, MRI, ultrasound, etc., etc. So what are we talking about here, and what went wrong for a 3.8 kg baby? Any clinician can take this.
At 38, 3.8 kg. GDM diagnosed at 28 weeks, add-on incident. Definitely, we need to deliver with 38 weeks or 30, maximum 39. We should not wait for 40 weeks. We can wait for 40 weeks if only on diet. Another thing is, there is a 250 gram gain in weight per week after 36 weeks. Then 40 weeks means the baby another 1 more kg baby instead of 3.8, it may be 4.8 or like that. Even though the 500 gram variations are there. So another thing is important is clinical judgment, that is assessment of the pelvis, size of the baby, the accuracy of the pelvis, whether this pelvis is accurate for the baby, adequate for the baby, that has to be assigned by a senior obstetrician. And then, and another thing is Even at the beginning of labor, we may not be able to assess, but in the active phase of labor, that is at 4 to 5 centimeter, there they had to take the decision whether this she can deliver or not, rather than waiting till for the full dilatation and then go for all the struggles.
All right. Okay. So point well taken. You have a patient who is GDM and whom you are already given medication. So don't let her go beyond 38 weeks. And at 40 weeks, the weight is really too much. Good assessment and proper assessment of pelvis and whether there is any cephalopelvic disproportion, etc. should be done beforehand, because shoulder dystocia, when it occurs, it definitely brings out some or the other trauma to the baby or the pelvis. So these are the allegations. My advocates tell me entire future of the baby is spoiled. So 1 crore compensation for disability to the baby and mental torture to the whole family. Allegations are these. The section would have been done. All this could have been prevented. So that's one. Madam never told us about problems of big baby. There was no counseling done. Fundal pressure was given by unqualified staff. Lot of pulling and pushing by the baby. Pediatrician did not tell that the injury happened at birth. X-rays and MRI are harmful to the baby. So advocates, how do you defend all this? Anybody can take. Dr. Raju, are you there? सुरेखा मैम सब हमको एडवोकेट छोड़ के जा रहे हैं सब.
नहीं संतोष है ना, संतोष.
Dr. Raju.
संतोष है, डॉक्टर कुंजी
Moideen sir. Yes, Dr.
Yeah,
Santosh
he's also there. So we can defend. See, you have given the antenatal care. Dr. Santosh, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
You have to defend the case. This is our colleague. What else you can say?
It is a clear-cut case of a shoulder dystocia. Though a weight of the baby can give some indication towards the probability of shoulder dystocia, but that doesn't mean that every case is going to land up in a shoulder dystocia.
Yes.
The attempt of the doctor is to try for a normal delivery, and I suppose the progress of the labor till second stage of labor was uneventful, and that was the reason doctor must have waited. Otherwise, if there was a prolonged labor and giving some indication, then section could have been done. But since the labor was progressing normally, doctor waited. And shoulder dystocia is like an accidental thing which cannot be predicted beforehand with 100% conviction. And when stuck up with a shoulder dystocia, doctor has tried whatever is possible in his capacity to take the baby with least damage possible.
All right. Okay.
Can
so
I
I would
make
add.
a comment, Dr. Manish?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Please, Sangeeta.
I think the co-factor there is the fact that fundal pressure should not be given.
Yeah. Okay.
So the fact that they have documented in a case of shoulder dystocia, fundal pressure is never given.
So let us say it was only a suprapubic pressure.
No, the fundal pressure,
Yeah.
it was an allegation made
It
by the
was
relative.
what we
So
call
it
as
may
a
be a wrong
cristellar.
thing.
It's called cristellar maneuver, just the suprapubic pressure.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I want to add something.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the advocate can bring out documents that they have been doing shoulder dystocia drill. They are hospitalist trained staff is there. They have been doing all this training and updates, and they can come up with some pictures and that ye training attend hua drills hota hai. They can have some documents, and they can. So fundal pressure may not be what they are talking of. See,
Yes, of
all
course.
these kind of allegations will be there, but we have to
clarify them.
or we have to clarify what is happening.
Yes.
And pediatrician did not tell about birth injury at birth. Okay, at birth may not be possible. Whenever it was detected, you have to counsel and you have to, and of course, X-ray and MRI harm the baby more. That is baseless, I think. That can be very nicely defended. So
I
we
want
can
to add that
defend on these points that it is unpredictable. First of all, our staff was ready to deal with. We monitored well. You can have the partogram to show that you did a good job, and you can defend.
And she was second gravida with one full-term vaginal delivery. So that
Right.
also another goes that her pelvis is tested once.
I want to add, sir, that even if the weight of the baby is less, we can't say that she won't land in shoulder dystocia.
And another point, if you read the textbooks, they will say the incidence of damage to the shoulders is same during cesarean section and vaginal delivery if you contemplate a shoulder dystocia. So even if there's a shoulder dystocia at section, you have to use the same maneuvers and deliver the baby, and you would find that there could be a damage even during cesarean section. So doing a cesarean section is not sacrosanct to prevent the injuries, especially if the shoulders get stuck. So, okay, thank you.
So
Yes.
actually, can I add? Can I add something?
Sure, ma'am.
The documents of the person who's delivering, they have to, if it has been well documented that what maneuver was done with what, because you have to defend the accusations. You can only defend if you spell out that this was done, and how the baby delivered. Quite obviously, the baby has delivered. And as you said, that if there is shoulder dystocia, even during cesarean section extraction, the baby may have a trauma. So our documents actually of labor will be very important in defending. I can't say saving, because as Dr. Valke had said, that whenever there is injury, there will be a leniency towards the party, and it's difficult to defend.
All right, okay. So clinicians have given their thoughts. Advocates have seen how we can defend it. Now let us talk to our judge, Dr. Dilip Valke sir, shoulder dystocia injury.
Manish, again, I'll go through all the documents. I'll go through the textbook references, the expert affidavits that have been submitted, and I'll come to this conclusion that whether the obstetrician waited for 40 weeks to deliver this patient, whether it was correct or not, it was not a standard practice. If the baby was 3.8 kg at 38 weeks, the obstetrician should have expected the baby to be bigger at that time. So I would say that shoulder dystocia in this case was not predicted. It should have been predicted. But the point here is not about this case. Supposing if this was a case which was much smaller, if this was a case where there was no GDM, and if this was a case that a proper vaginal delivery was planned at 40 weeks, and despite that there was shoulder dystocia, then yes, what Surekha told us, whether your hospital is doing some drills about it, whether you're updated about shoulder dystocia drill, then all your documentation of how you actually did all the maneuvers to manage the shoulder dystocia will help you. But not completely, because what I'm saying is the next question would be, did you tell the patient that there is a possibility of shoulder dystocia in any natural vaginal delivery? And the answer would be no. And that's the reason why if you go on the Foxy website and if you read the Foxy uniform consent, then there is a uniform consent that we have devised for natural vaginal deliveries also. And that in that consent form, in the instruction, we also talk about all these complications like episiotomy problems, about shoulder dystocia and everything. So then the patient will never be able to say in the court of law that I was never told about shoulder dystocia. So what I advise is all the clinicians who are sitting here, please go on the Foxy website, because we feel the consent for natural vaginal delivery is the most challenging consent that we actually devise. And I'm not claiming that that consent is absolutely correct. Please, for God's sake, go on that, give your input so that slowly and gradually we evolve into forming a wonderful consent for natural vaginal births. And then if we do that, then all these kind of problems that we face in the court of law will have an answer to say that we had educated the patient about the possibility of shoulder dystocia. This case is difficult to defend because here the doctor has defaulted because the weight is too high. The doctor waited till 40 weeks. But any other case would be easy to defend with the help of all the documents and with the help of a proper uniform Foxy consent. So I invite all of you to go on the Foxy website and give your input, because these consents are going to evolve. This is not a final consent that we have devised. It is going to evolve year after year, and we will just add upon it and try to make it better.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Manish.
Thank you. I just finished. This is the final word. You have to be vigilant. You use your communication skills well. Protocol-based management should be there. Document all efforts, proper consents, ask for help, be transparent, shift in time and pray. Thank you all the clinicians, advocates, and Judge Dr. Dilip Valke sir. And this is, one thing which you should remember. Anybody knows who this lady is? She's Karanjit Vora. Karanjit Kaur Vora. All right. Now. No.
Sunny
All right. Yes, thank you. This is Sunny Leon. So, friends, remember, change is the only constant. So thank you. I hope your practice changes for the best from all what our clinicians, advocates, and respected judges have told us. Again, thanks to all of them. They have been very spontaneous, very clear in their remarks, and they have given us very robust answers for all the questions. I again thank West Zone, Isoparb, Dr. Surekha ma'am, Dr. Rashmi, and everybody for involving me here. And thanks to all these experts for giving superb answers. And last word is that, it was not a made up panel. Nobody knew what cases or what I'm going to discuss. Last thing which I always say during my medical legal talks is, one thing which we have can be detrimental to our own colleagues is our tongue. So please don't speak ill about your colleagues. Even if you have to tell somebody their mistake, call them in person and discuss in front of others. Use your tongue very sparingly for your colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manish and Dr. Dilip Walke sir, and our experts, Dr. Jyoti Ramesh Chandran, Dr. Radhamani ma'am, Dr. Sangeeta Menon ma'am, Dr. Preeta George, then Dr. Kunji Mohiddin, then Raju Nair. They both were saying that we are infertility specialists, but thank you, so sporting of you to be there, Dr. Sudesh Doshi and Santosh Joybag. So we go on quickly to the debate. And I request that we should keep to the time of debate, 7 minutes and 7 minutes for the debaters. And so hand over to Rashmi to introduce our judge, Dr. Percy Lewis, and the debaters.
A slide change, please. Abhishek, are you there? Dr. Jaya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
After this wonderful and very interactive session, let's move on to the another session. It is debate. The topic of debate is digital versus manual record keeping, and debaters are for digital, Dr. respected Dr. Rahul Vani sir, and for manual, Dr. Ajay Mane sir, and Dr. Percy Lewis sir will be judging the session. So I would like to introduce Dr. Percy Lewis sir. He is senior consultant and associate professor at Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, Cochin, Kerala. He's Foxy Vice President 2021, ISAR National Executive Member, ICOG Governing Council Member 21-22. He has been Vice President of the KFOG 2019 and editor of the KFOG Journal and website 2009-2011. Has received Foxy Corion Kamini Rao Yuva Orator Imaging Science Award. We welcome you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide.
Professor, you can you can introduce the.
No, can you introduce? Can you introduce?
Yeah.
There is
Okay.
a slight signal problems. Can you introduce?
Okay, Jaya, you can introduce.
It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Rahul Vani sir. Sir is consultant at Mathadi Hospital Trust, obstetrician and gynecologist at Arjuna Maternity. He is associate medical legal consultant, BNS Medical Legal Consultancies, and lead assessor at Manyata. Sir. Next slide, please. We have respected Dr. Ajay Mane sir. Sir is medical legal consultant since 18 years. He's chairperson official AMOX at official AMOX website. He's chairperson for the Adolescent Health Education Committee AMOX. He's past president Aurangabad OBGYN Society. And ex-superintendent MGM Medical College Aurangabad. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, over to Dr. Percy.
Over to sir.
I think we have already heard about several points about the medical legal aspects. I think the most important thing out of that is the record keeping. I think we are all eagerly waiting here to see how the debate will turn.
Yeah.
So without wasting time, we can go to the
7 minutes,
to the
and then
topic.
we have 1 minute of rebuttal. You can let the debaters know when the time is up. Dr. Rahul Vani, please.
Okay.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for the introduction, and I thank Isoparb Vidarbha chapter and the Oli Sarangi Society, along with a host of other societies who have given me this opportunity to speak on digital record keeping. Can I share my screen, please?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah. So, Now, what I'm going to talk about is whatever is in the government gadgets, whatever the law says. I'm going to purely base my talk on whatever is available, and these are not my own thoughts. This is what our government thinks, and this is what the legal aspect of record keeping is. So I'll be talking about digital record keeping. Now, there is something called as Electronic Medical Records Standards 2016. These are the guidelines which have been issued by the Ministry of Family Welfare of Government of India. Now, what does this say? These are the statements from this standards. What is the need for electronic health record? So what it says is health record of an individual is from conception or birth till date. That means the whole record right from the birth of the patient or right from the conception of the pregnancy of that child till whatever he is today. Now, for example, if a patient comes to us for a pre-conception counseling and we ask for vaccination record, what vaccination you have had, and the patient does not know what vaccination she has had. Now, if there is a health record which is there and which can be accessed, like your bank account, you can go on to net banking, you can see your bank account, you can see all the transactions for last 5 years, 10 years. Similarly, this is a health account, and you can go into it will have a username, it will have a password, or it could be like a health card. You just swipe, put in a pin, and you can access the health record. And the secrecy is maintained by the patient himself who has the access or who has the password and the pin. So what this document says is, as one progresses through one's life, every record of every clinical encounter represents a health-related event in one's life. It could be significant for current health issue. Now, in subsequent life, if the patient is suffering from some illness, its generation or its start could be somewhere in his previous past history, which the patients never give us accurately when we are asking them verbally or we are recording them manually. Thus, it becomes imperative that these records be available longitudinally, arranged as a time series, and be clinically relevant to provide a summary of the various healthcare events in the life of a person. This is what this document says about the standards. Then what is electronic health record? It also explains what is electronic health record. A collection of various medical records that get generated during any clinical encounter or events. Now, with rise of self-care and home care devices, now you have electronic gadgets which can monitor the sugars 24/7, or you have like the NST machines which can be given to the patient and they can home monitor, and this is connected with an Wi-Fi to an app, and you can monitor this NSTs through the app and through distally or through long distance. So what is the purpose of collecting medical records? The purposes are manifold: for better and evidence-based care, increasingly accurate and faster diagnosis that translates into better treatment at lower costs of care, avoiding repeated unnecessary investigations. Now, most of the times, suppose patient has come to us for a second delivery. We ask her whether you have been screened for thalassemia, and she does not know whether she was screened for thalassemia. Now, if the records are available to be accessed from anywhere throughout her life, then we will know all these investigations are done. Her blood group is known, her thalassemia screen is known, and we don't need to repeat these investigations. And all your electronic records can be supported by artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of purpose for maintaining this medical records electronically. Now, the idea that any person in India can go to any health service provider, practitioner, any diagnostic center or any pharmacy, and yet be able to access and have fully integrated and always available health records in an electronic format is not only empowering, but also the vision for efficient 21st century healthcare delivery. So there are a lot of disadvantages of manual recording. It requires paper, it requires stationery, you require a lot of space to keep these records. There are overheads of managing this because you will need to have some record managing department, and so salaries for this staff. Then these records can be stolen, there can be fire, it can be eaten away by rodents. Sometimes our handwriting is so illegible and this can increase errors. So there are a lot of disadvantages of manual record keeping. Now, what are the advantages of digital records? Now, digital records, or there is something called as a patient tracking system. And now this is a cloud-based, and the digital records are portable. They can be stored in the cloud. It is end-to-end encrypted. Nobody can access these records unless they have the username, password, or they have a PIN to access these records. So this is how it is like a bank account. Unless you have the username, the password, the customer number, or the PIN, you will not be able to access the bank account. So similarly, such kind of health record systems will be there where it can be, secrecy can be maintained, and only eligible person will be able to access these records. So this is the need of the time. The world is moving towards electronic records. Now look at this. Look at this picture. Look at the manual record keeping, heaps and heaps of files, heaps and heaps of books. And look at the other side, just a simple desktop with your keyboard and mouse. Now that they can be wireless also. You just enter everything there and store it on the cloud. You want to access it, you can access it anywhere, anytime, from provided you have the user ID and the password. Now let me bring to our, get to our laws or our guidelines. What do they say? Recently, the government passed telemedicine regulations. Now, telemedicine regulations, how do you store records on this? It has to be electronic. Otherwise, we will not be able to store records of telemedicine. Now, even this Indian Medical Council Professional Conduct Etiquette and Ethics Regulations 2002, the Article 134 says that efforts shall be made to computerize medical records for quick retrieval. So this is kind of a mandate through the guidelines which has been given to us. Now, what are the medical legal aspects of record keeping? We just heard about documentation. We all know good documentation is good defense, poor documentation is poor defense, no documentation is no defense. And how long do you need to keep records? I would say indefinitely. We may say that the consumer courts has a limitation of 2 years. The civil court has limitation of 3 years. But the criminal courts, there is no limitation. A criminal case can be filed anytime. We also know in obstetric cases, a child can file a suit within 3 years of attaining majority. That means 21 years. That is how long you will need to keep your obstetric records. Now imagine keeping these records for the lifetime. I showed you that picture, heaps and heaps of documents. They can be stolen, they can be replaced. It can get damaged in fire, and if we'll have no records, and if we have no records, we cannot defend our cases. Now, what is the government mandate? Now, we are already seeing under the PCPNDT Act, we are made to submit records online. Even the biomedical waste rules has certain provisions where we need to have a website and we need to submit our annual reports of biomedical waste rules onto the website. Now, the Clinical Establishment Act, with this and clinical establishment rules, these have been passed in certain states, and sooner or later all the states will have their own clinical establishment acts, and this says mandatorily that clinical establishments shall maintain and provide electronic medical record or electronic health record of every patient as may be determined and issued by the central government or state government. So this is going to come sooner or later, and it is better we accept it and we start maintaining our records electronically. Whether you like it or not, you will have to maintain digital records sooner or later. Sooner, the better. Thank you. I have spoken just about whatever rules, regulations, and guidelines we have, and I'm pretty sure sooner or later the government will mandate us to make these records electronic and accessible from all the sides. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahul Wani, for that excellent input. I think next, without wasting time, we will go with Dr. Ajay Mani talking about manual record keeping.
Yeah, thank you, Fezi, and thank you, Surekha ma'am and Rashmi ma'am. There I can see 15 attendees. Before they go, I'll complete my presentation. Okay.
This is live stream. This is just a faculty link.
Okay. Thank you very much, my dear friend Rahul. He's the real advocate. Basically, he has got much more knowledge than me. But I just wanted to put my points. Record keeping manual. Okay. I'll make it Yeah, okay, fine. Gratitude to Surekha Tade, Dr. Rashmi Kahar, Dr. Ajit sir, Dr. Venu Gopal sir, President Secretary of Kerala Obedience Society Association, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir, MC Patil sir, Faisal Luis, and Dr. Sunita Tandurwadkar ma'am, Isoparb Vidarbha chapter and Devali Savangi Obedience Societies, Adur, Aleppi, Calicut, Cananore, Cochin, Kasargod, Kolam, Perinthsalbanna, Thrissur, Trivandrum, Malanadu, Navi Mumbai, Pandharpur Obedience Societies. Thank you very much. So it was depending on my last presentation. In last presentation, I showed this situation. Patient came with a pregnancy of 17 weeks for first time and her age is 17. What next? POXO Act applies here. We need to follow protocol, inform the police documentation. Can we keep this record digitally? No. And no, we need to have a received sign and stamp of the police station. That's why it is cannot be possible digitally. Next, unregistered patient came for early label, not ready for any investigations and ask for admission and delivery. Can we deny? Yes. And send proper documentation, consent, referral letter. Can we keep this record digitally? No, because this has to be in written form. Digitally, it is not possible. Maybe possible, as Rahul sir said, maybe after a few years, after complete automation and digital signature, etc. But as on today, it is not available. Registered patients with routine follow-up came at full term and all the labor insisting for normal delivery only and not ready for CS. Then again, can we keep this record digitally? No, because partogram, fetal records, CTG can be kept digitally, but partogram cannot be made available digitally. Then negative consent cannot be made available. Then same thing, patient is not ready to shift. Then same things, the shifting notes and the negative consent for the shifting cannot be possible. Cord prolapse, everything must be counseled and that needs to be recorded. It can be a video recording consent can be possible in that situation, but must be a written one, which is mandatory in the court of law, because the court don't accept these. They want it, okay, get it into the written format and then give it. IUFD, same thing. IUFD, same thing. MTP registration certificate, we need to fill form A in a written and get form B in printout format. Then which are the documents in PCPNDT can we give digitally? There is a mandatory for us to have a written consent in UHG. Then basically we need to have written consent in three things. One is PCPNDT, one is MTP, and third one is organ transplant. The government has not given till today the permission of digital signature. Patients and doctors declaration is written format only as on today, at least in PCPNDT. Okay, that declaration need to be having signed by the patient and the doctors. And the patient digital signature, that is very, this is the ABCDEFGH documentation. Tell in detail about Form F in PCPNDT. I am not going to detail. Section A, B, C, D, A, general information can be done digitally, but very difficult. B is then non-invasive USG, can be done. No declaration is possible without signature. Section C is invasive, and Section D is declaration, that is to be on paper, because we need to give one copy to the patient. That is not possible in digital. Documentation about followed all protocols, everything not possible in digital. So documentation is possible with real write-up in real sense as it is. Then it is easy, basically. Then timely done. Immediately we can have within 5 minutes and complete the document. Then uneducated patients or not a software friendly patients, then also we can do it easily with the manual method. We can guide them and they can have signature and left thumb impression. Left thumb impression is not possible digitally. We need to have that machine. The machine may work, may not work. Thumb impression, because my father, mother, they don't match their thumb impressions and 10-digit impressions in bank, because it gets changed with the working conditions and the injuries and whatnot. Our assistant staff can do this easily, as needs no special training for the digitalization. Manual is very easy. Digital signature is to be verified by a system, which takes time and money. It is very costly because we do it routinely at CA, and they charge 2,000 to 3,000 per signature. That is very costly and takes 2 to 3 days. It can get corrupt and vanish. If a virus is there, then it can go, the cloud is gone and no barish of the document is there. So not possible digitally. This is my view. And again, this is my appeal to you. Kindly vote for me. I am contesting for the post of Vice President Foxy, West Zone. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rahul Bhai, for those recent things given by the government. Remember me at the time of voting. It will be a Dr. Mane Ajay for the post of Vice President Foxy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, can I rebut this for a minute?
Yeah,
Yes,
but I would do that. I will listen to you only now.
So all the best, Dr. Ajay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Post. We'll definitely vote for you. I think voting lines will open from tomorrow. So,
Yeah, 21, no, on Monday.
On Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you said is not possible will be possible sooner or later. You
Yes.
know, the whole IT department, income tax filing, everything has gone digital. Your bank accounts, banking is most of it is now digital. My money transaction is digital. Now, similarly, your health records and health accounts will go digital sooner or later, and the government is going to make this mandatory. It will come soon. So we will have to do it.
Yeah, we hope so. Hope so.
Yeah, Dr. Facey, your final verdict, please. If Dr. Facey is not there?
No, he disappeared. Facey has gone.
So I think
he said his connection was unstable,
there,
no?
I would just, because I am no expert, but I will take this opportunity till Dr. Facey comes. And I think both of you have presented very well. Dr. Ajay Mane, you have talked about the manual record keeping, which is being done in most of the public setups.
Hello?
And yes, Dr. Facey
Yeah, Facey has come.
There was some connection problems, so laptop got disconnected, so I had to connect with the mobile.
Please, sir.
I think whether we'll be taking rebuttal or
rebuttal, Dr. Rahul Vani has said that it's going to come in future. Everything is going to become digital.
Okay. I think both the speakers did justice to their topic, and both the points are relevant. But one thing I would like to add is that even though, as Dr. Rahul had told, digital may be good for long-term record keeping, but how far we can utilize that in our setup, that is a big concern. And the special circumstances Dr. Ajay told, we cannot use that. That is another thing. And at present, we cannot insist that digital because it is not easily accessible. But in the long term, in future, I think that will be useful when it is so widely useful. And tampering the digital records, that also can occur in future. So that is what just cyber crimes, as a part of cyber crime, people can tamper that also in future. I think that may be little more easy in future years than the tampering the manual records. So manual record, that's the thing we have to see as the technology advances. So both the speakers did justice to that. As we cannot take a digital voting, I think both the speakers has to be given credit for their points. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the winners are the organizers, sir.
Pardon?
Winners are the organizers, sir.
Yeah, Rashmi, we are not able to hear you well clearly.
Are the organizers winners of this debate?
Are the organizer winning? Okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So that's a good point. At 7:50, with the panel awaited and all the panelists there. So thank you very much, Dr. Facey, Dr. Rahul Vani, and Dr. Ajay Mane for clear insights and clear take-home messages. And thank you very much. And with your permission, we move on to our next session, which is a panel, and all our panelists are awaited here.
Yes.
So can we just move on to our panel? Dr. Rashmi, thank you very much, all of you. Yeah. So then the panel, please.
Slide.
Quickly and briefly, if we can introduce Rashmi.
Yes. The moderator of panel discussion on medical legal issues of labor monitoring is none other than Dr. Surekha Taide, who is the convener of this webinar and president of Devli Samangi Obstetrics and Gynec Society and Vidarbha Isoparb. She is contesting for the post of clinical research committee FOXI, and she is with very high grade of high degree of clinical aptitude. She is an ideal candidate for this space. For this post. I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists to the house. Dr. Deepa Madhavan. Madam is consultant and she works at Government District Hospital, Kanagad, Kasaragod, Kerala. I welcome you, ma'am. Our next panelist is Dr. N.R. Rina. Madam is consultant gynecologist, Kerala Health Service Department, former secretary, column OBGY Society, and she has been a member of Practical Obstetrics Committee. Welcome you, ma'am. Our next panelist is Dr. Rani Lakshmi. She's a consultant OBGY and secretary, Kottayam OBGY Society. Welcome, ma'am. Our next panelist is Madam Pramila Menon. She's Professor Thrissur, Kerala, and she's working at Amala Institute of Medical Sciences and Secretary Thrissur OBGY Society. I welcome you, ma'am. And next panelist is Dr. Nishiro Roshini, ma'am. Madam is HOD and Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Government Medical College, Ernakulam, Kerala, and she has been President of Thrissur. I welcome you, ma'am. Our next panelist is Professor B. Prasanna Kumari, Madam is Senior Consultant Obstetrician and Gynecologist and Head of the Department, Lifeline Hospital, Adur. Madam is Senior Consultant Obstetrician and Gynecologist, SUT Hospital, Trivandrum. Welcome you, ma'am. The expert for this panel is none other than Dr. Mitra Saxena, Madam. I welcome you, Madam. Respected Madam is Chairperson of Practical Obstetrics Committee, FOXY.
Please allow me to share screen. Yeah. Stop screen, please. Thank you very much. And we quickly move on to the panel. And so hope my screen is visible.
Absolutely visible, ma'am.
Slideshow, please.
Yeah, I'll put it on slideshow. So this is the panel discussion on medical legal connotations of labor. And the panelists have already been introduced. And I would bring greetings from my medical college, which is Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College. And already I have been introduced by Dr. Rashmi as your candidate for Clinical Research Committee. With that, and I would like the panelists to kindly be talking about the medico-legal aspects of the case scenarios, which I would be narrating. And my acknowledgements for this presentation goes to Dr. MC Patel, sir, and Dr. Ajay Mani, from whom I have not only borrowed some slides and case scenarios, but discussed with them what is going to be the medico-legal aspect of these cases. So as Dr. MC Patel has said, is this required? Do we need to discuss this? And if yes, then why? Because medical legal litigations are increasing in number constantly and steadily. As you can see the statistics, you see out of the 90,000 plus judgments, 1.38% have been because of medical legal negligence, and most of them have been, 25% or more have been obstetrics and gynecology specialty, which has been, linked in this. So rightly, we can say, MC Patel has said that specialty, if we are seeing OBGYNs are the one who have been most sued for malpractice practice, and they are ranking first in the ones who are sued. So cases of labor are definitely a potential for litigations, and these are the various ways in which we can be sued: delay in diagnosis, investigation, wrong diagnosis, no consent, staff not qualified, infrastructure issues, unnecessary investigation, emergency services not available, communication failure, delay in transfers, some congenital anomalies missed, complications, morbidity, mortality, and even overcharging you can be sued for that. So these are the alarming situations, in OBGYN, like patient dissatisfaction. If the patient is asking for second opinion, they're asking to shift the patient, there is some unexpected result, you have charged more, there's a death of a young patient, medical record is being requested. So you have to be alert in this situation. Probably the case is going to be going to the court, and you have to be alert, and that is how you need to be aware, and yourself you have to be trained in medical legal aspects. So for malpractice suits, especially for maternal and fetal birth injuries, the obstetricians have been sued now and again. So this is the first question to the panelists. Any of you can take this. How many years do we need to maintain the record? See, like in labor or MTP, PCP, NDT, ART, or surrogacy? What do you think, Dr. Nishi ma'am? What do you think? How many years do you preserve your records?
Labor records we have to keep for 5 years. 5 years.
Okay. Anybody else, Dr. Deepa? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Okay. It's okay, ma'am.
Labor and MTP, madam, how many years do you keep your records?
I think this has also to be kept for nearly 10 years.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. And Dr. Deepa, would you like to say something about this? The records? Yeah. And you have been listening to Dr. Deepa, you're on mute. If you want to say something, you have to unmute yourself. Dr. Reena? The labor records, huh?
Same opinion.
Right. But as you have heard from Dr. Rahul Vani, you have heard that you may need the records even for lifetime. You may have to preserve it because, the court requires that records have to be kept for almost 21 years as far as labor is concerned. And that is where I think all of us have to learn that our record keeping has to be for more number of years as far as labor is concerned. You must have heard in the newspaper, one girl, when she matured and came of age at 21 years of age, she sued her mother's obstetrician, because she was having some anomaly, and she sued the obstetrician that pregnancy, if it would have been terminated, then she would not have been born handicapped. So that is how the things are, in medical legal practice, that we do have to preserve our records for a longer period of time, like in labor for 21 years. If for the Consumer Protection Act for 2 years, for MTP, rightly Dr. Reena and Dr. Nishi has said for 5 years, for PCP and NDT Act, everybody of us know for 2 years. And if it is an ART, then 10 years, and surrogacy, then 25 years. So mostly our records have to be preserved for a longer period of time. Now, another question, this is also for all the panelists. Do we need a consent for labor? What do you think, ma'am? Dr. Pramila?
Yes, ma'am. We do need a consent for labor, as we were discussing just now. Sir was saying that we should all make use of the labor consent forms given by FOXI. So the labor, though we say that this is something which happens naturally, but I believe this is a condition which can go haywire at any time. So we need to have a consent in labor. And
another question, ma'am, can a consent be given when the patient is in active labor and too much of pains are there?
You should take it in between contractions when she is painless, or else if she is on epidural, that's well and good if she is on epidural. Otherwise, in between contractions when she is not in pain, at that point of time you can take. But if you have taken it while she is actually screaming with pain, then it doesn't have any validity. That's what I believe.
Dr. Reena, you want to say something on this, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. If we are proceeding with induction of labor, consent is a must. Otherwise, for Pitocin acceleration and all, no consent is required. PG even.
Dr. Nishi, what do you say?
When we take a consent for induction, and in between, if she is to have any instrumental delivery, we need an additional consent. And also, if she takes for cesarean section, also any adverse events in between, you need a consent. And the proper thing is that you have to have information of the progress of labor in between to the bystander and document it so that they can have an aware of what is happening. That is the thing I need.
So, madam, first of all, yes, we do need a consent for labor, and not only all instrumental delivery or any difficult labor, we do need a consent wherein we have to mention what all problems the patient may have, anticipated problems. And of course, as you have rightly said, when the patient is in screaming in labor, that consent is not considered to be valid. In fact, you have to take the consent of the patient prior to her labor actually starts. And you do have to, like Dr. MC Patel and Dr. Walke has already told us about these uniform consents. We can make use of those consents, and which has two parts. one part is what is the information of the procedure. If any procedure is being done like augmentation, episiotomy, instrumental delivery, any tear and anything has been repaired. So Dr. Reena has rightly said that if any procedure is being done, you have to mention it. And any complication, if you are thinking, any interventions have been done like augmentation during the labor, if you're doing any procedure, all those have to be there in your consent. So it is very good if you prior to the active labor has started, if you can talk to the patient and let them know what may be anticipated in the labor, and you should be taking a consent in specifically. I think if you can go on Foxy website, there are the uniform consents which we can download them, go through them, and if we can start using them, that is how I think we can protect ourselves medico-legally if the consent has been taken. So we cannot predict anything in labor. That is what we do have to remember. Many a times we think that we may not land up into such situation of medico-legal litigations. But let us remember that it can happen to anybody, and let us start taking these consents prior to the patient going into active labor. And if any situation arises that now you have to take a renewed consent, the relative of the patient can give the consent for the patient in such a situation where the patient is not able to provide. So you should also be talking about any substantial risk like infection, specifics risk related to the instrument, like if you are doing a forceps delivery, excessive bleeding during labor, if you are anticipating all those risks also you should be talking. So these are the uniform consents developed by Dr. Alpesh Gandhi, Dr. MC Patel, Dr. Dilip Walke, and Dr. Nikhil Datar, and we should go to the Foxy website and we should download them and start using them in our practice so that we are safe from litigation. So this is the case for Dr. Deepa. She is Miss ABC. She is young and smart. She has come to your hospital for increased in weight gain and some discomfort in abdomen. She has a history of irregular menses. On examination, you find that she is 36 weeks pregnant. You confirm it by ultrasound. What is next in this case? How should you go about? Dr. Deepa.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, madam.
Okay. So first and foremost, she is 17-year-old and pregnant. So POXO applies here. And not reporting this is an offense. I would say one of the main feature, or rather the flagship feature of the POXO Act, it's the mandatory reporting obligation, which is imposed under Section 19. It requires that every person who suspects or has a knowledge of sexual offense being committed, we have to report it to the local police. And we have to properly document thoroughly examine and document in the reporting format for the sexual offenses thing. And we have to carry out our obstetric examinations. Basic routine investigations has to be done. All the basically teenage pregnancy, almost near term, we have to anticipate the complications like preeclampsia, all the things, and all the routine things has to be carried out.
Absolutely, Dr. Deepa, you're right on point there that this patient is 17-year-old, so POXO applies here, whether married or unmarried. That we have to remember. First thing and foremost to do is to inform the police. So, the patient or the relative sometimes may say that we don't want to do an FIR. This sexual act was by consent. We have no problem. We don't want to go to the court, or we don't want to go to the police. But that doesn't apply. As a health practitioner, we need to inform to the police, and it is the prerogative of the police whether they want to get the FIR done or not. That is none of our concern. It is not about FIR. It is about information. Your information has to go in a prescribed format, and you please document in your case sheet that you have reported to the police, and the standard protocols then has to be followed for this patient being 36 weeks. Prior investigations have not been done. She is an unbooked case. Accordingly, you will do your investigation, and then Of course, depending on the clinical scenario and situation, you will manage the case. So thank you, Dr. Deepa, for that. So this case is for Dr. Reena. She is a 29-year-old. She has migrated from her village during the pandemic. She came to your hospital with amenorrhea of 9 months and with pain in abdomen. She is not registered. She is unbooked patient in early labor. She has no investigation. She doesn't have any record. She now insists on admission and delivery. What next from your side? Question is, can we refuse these kind of unbooked cases when you are in private practice?
No, madam, never. We have to evaluate the patient, and if the facilities in your center is adequate to manage that case, you have to manage that patient. If your facility is not sufficient enough to manage such a patient, you can refer the patient to higher center, properly accompanied by a trained personnel in an ambulance with all facilities.
Okay, Dr. Reena. Dr. Pramila is not agreeing, I think. Do you have any other opinion, Dr. Pramila?
I think Dr. Ajay Mane in his presentation specifically said about this condition where an unbooked case comes to you, and if you feel that you are not obliged to take on that case, you can always say we can't take it on. We can always refer. It's not mandatory that we should take on. That's what.
So this is talking about a single practitioner-led, practice where the patient, if she is unbooked, and you think that you are not obliged. So by law, you're not obliged specifically that if the patient is an elective case. In case of an emergency, if the patient is in an emergency and she needs immediate care, then you cannot refuse any patient. But an elective patient, if she is unbooked, you can, if you're not obliged, but you have to follow some protocols. Then whenever you are referring the patient to any other institute, you have to have proper documentation. You will have to take the consent from the patient, negative consent, which we say, and you need to have a good referral letter where everything is written correctly. You don't want to deliver that patient in your setup, but you should see to it that she gets adequate care by providing her to a referral letter. Your documentation has to be correct, and then only you can refer. So as rightly said, Dr. Pramila, but in public health setups, in institutions, you cannot refuse any patient. This, what we are talking of, is a single practitioner led versus a public health setup. Public health setup, whether booked or unbooked, whether the patient has any, financial support or not, whether relatives accompanying or not, it is mandatory that we should take care of all the patients. So thank you both, Dr. Reena and Dr. Pramila, for bringing that out. And the difference which we could make as far as private practice and the institutional setup is concerned. So Dr. Mitra, are you there? She's not there. So this case is for Dr. Rashmi now. This this patient is Mrs. ABC. She is a net savvy patient. She's a primary gravida. She came to us with amenorrhea of 9 months with pain in abdomen. She is admitted in your hospital. She had attended all the antenatal classes. She was monitored by CTG. CTG is showing fluctuation in fetal heart rate. Lycaramna is meconium stain. You explain to her that LSCS is needed. She refuses. She wants normal delivery. What will you do next? And if she is not even ready to get shifted to other hospitals, so what to do now? Dr. Rashmi?
So here comes the importance of negative consent, in my opinion. And what is going to help to a practitioner is recording of proper findings on admission, then fetal heart record, if there are any CTG records, and then partogram, if you have, you can preserve, and this will be very helpful in court of law. When you have to refer this patient, refer with all the protocols. Again, explain, do counseling, that what could be the consequences if she is not agreeing to you, and then take a second opinion from a senior obstetrician who is nearer to you, who always assists you, and also record that. That will be very much helpful to you in this situation.
So I think these problems arise if there is some lack of communication between you and the treating physician and the patient and relatives. So many a times, if you counsel properly, if you tell them what is the need of the cesarean section and what is if the procedure has to be done, many a time, most of the times we find that if good counseling, good communication skills are there, the patient does agree to what you are saying. But sometimes it can happen once in a while that the patient does not agree to go for a cesarean section. That is where the negative consent is very important. It has to be documented, and when you document such kind of consents, you have to have the sign of the witness also. Sometimes the patient may say, this is not my signature. So in that case, we have heard medical legal experts saying that you should have a thumb impression also, because thumb impression, the patient may say this is not my consent, but thumb impression is good enough to tell us that yes. So denial of shifting, negative consent, taking a second opinion if you have some senior or a colleague nearby, these are all very important. And of course, to preserve your records well, documentation is all that you can, from a medical legal point of view. Thank you very much. Yes, as rightly said, CTG recordings are medical legal documents. Partograph is important. Time to time information has been given to patient and relatives. Document of paper. Sometimes, even a video recording of what you're talking of with your patient may be required. Not possible in public health setups, but sometimes when the situation is going very bad, that time it may be helpful and it may be a good useful tool. So Dr. Pramila, this is a 36-year-old reported to your emergency with 8 months pain in abdomen. She's a 4th gravida, para 2, living 2. She has come to your OPD in early pregnancy, and after that she never came back to you. But she now came to you in emergency with pain in abdomen and in labor. You diagnose that there is a cord prolapse. Now, what will you do next from medical legal point of view?
So as far as medical legal point of view is concerned, I think it is intricately mixed with what we are going to do clinically also. So the first and foremost thing that will decide what to do next will be whether the heart rate is there or not, whether the baby is viable or not. So in that case, anyway, we have to counsel them regarding the need. If the fetal heart is still there, we have to think about an immediate delivery by a cesarean section, provided she is not fully dilated and almost going to deliver. So we will have to go for a cesarean section, but we'll have to communicate with the patients and the bystanders, and we will have to tell them that we haven't got any scans and anything has not been done. We don't know about her. I hope that previous was normal deliveries. If it is previous cesarean sections, then again, it is a dilemma because she has not done any scans so far. We don't know about her placenta, whether there is any adherent placenta. We have no idea about what is happening. So all those things we'll have to go through in our discussion. We'll have to discuss with them in detail and then counsel again and properly document whatever you are discussing. And as I said, as Madam already said, you can always take the consent from the bystanders also.
Yeah, so I think one thing which is very good take home from our Dr. Pramila is don't think of medical legal aspects when you're managing such kind of emergency. Do everything which you would do as a clinician first. What appropriate management is the first defense as far as any case is concerned. If you have followed the protocols correctly, if you have managed the patient correctly, if you have made the best effort for the patient and the baby, I think there is where half the case has already been won. And then of course comes that your documentation, your communication, your that part is there. But first and the foremost is to manage the patient well clinically and make all your efforts, because that is what the patient and the relatives are watching actually, how good you are managing the patient, how your team is running for the patient. That actually works in your favor. However, for sometimes what happens, you can't actually rely on so you have to have counsel the consequences, talk about the consent with the witness, and of course you have to see to it that the good practice protocols have been followed. Like pediatrician has to be there, your anesthetist should be well informed, and if you need some help from your fraternity, you should be asking for that too. So with that, we move to and of course we have to remember that when you're counseling, you have to speak in the vernacular language, avoid medical jargon, and talk about the things with the patient and the relatives can understand. So that is also very good as far as concerned it's coming. So communication, documentation of communication, and communication of your documentation. All four things, though it may seem, sort of a jargon again, but I think these are very, very important things for us all to remember. So Dr. Nishi, this is a well-educated, net-savvy patient, 52-year-old. She is a software consultant. She's having gestational diabetes mellitus, but because of the pandemic, she opted for online consultations, which were infrequent. Now she has come to you at 39 weeks of gestation to inquire. She came to your OPD. She just thought she would visit and see the hospital, whether she can deliver here or not, and what are the charges and all. She came to you, and you found out on examination that there is an intrauterine fetal death. What is the next step for you in this patient?
If the diabetes and hypertension patient well controlled, ideally should have been delivered by 37-38 weeks. That is in our mind. No? When she comes at 39 weeks with IUD, once you diagnose it, what you have to do is you have to do an ultrasound. You have to tell her that document and confirm that it is an IUD, and look all the other parameters, what is the lie, all other things, whether there is evidence of fetal gas in iota, Spalding sign, or like all such things you have to take care of. And then you have to break this news to the husband and wife in privacy. And that's a very sensitive issue. So they have to be very careful in breaking such news. And so deal with empathy, but don't be apologetic. At the same time, don't blame them. Then if you want to involve their relatives in this discussion, you can also involve them also. And then discuss about how to manage, that is whether she needs immediate termination, the mode of delivery, the time of delivery, and that what complications that can occur. And also that she being diabetic, you have to think of the chance of shoulder dystocia even with a dead baby, that you can get the weight from the previous documents also. Then the need for this thing, placental and fetus has to be sent for pathological autopsy and placenta for histopathological examination. All these has to be dealt with. But the thing that what are the medical legal aspects when it comes, you have to think of other things also. Madam,
yeah,
did
right.
I answer?
Absolutely, madam. I think two things I can pick up as take-home messages is breaking the bad news with empathy. You be empathetic, but you do not have to be apologetic. These are the two things I think we can very well pick up from your deliberation. And thank you very much. Yes, this patient did not come to you as advised. You may have advised her blood sugar. She did not turn up for any investigation. So these are the points you may document as your as negative consents. And you should not come up for any checkup. She was infrequent. She was advised some investigations. She did not maintain the fetal movements. So all these are considered as non-compliance from the side of the patient, and it is sort of a contributory negligence from the side of the patient. So from medical legal point of view, you could document all this. But rightly said, in case of an intrauterine fetal death, first and foremost is to be empathetic towards the patient, and the relatives, have good communication, be aware that they need support. And definitely this is from the medical legal point of view. So thank you very much for that very nice home messages. So Dr. Prasanna Kumari, madam is not there. So Dr. Pramila, you can take up this case. She's a 22 years old and having severe PIH, reports to your hospital with a healthcare worker from the periphery, she has convulsions, your setup does not have facilities for further management, you need to refer her immediately. So how would you go about it?
So this is again like that previous cord prolapse situation where we have to do the emergency management before referring. So we have to make sure at least that loading dose of Maxelf we are giving and the BP control has been done so that she doesn't throw a seizure, further seizures or develop an intracranial hemorrhage by the time she reaches a higher center. So once you do that immediate management, document whatever, how she has come into your setup and what was her condition at that time. And while you are referring the patient to the higher center, I think it is very important that we should inform the higher center that we are sending such a patient, and whatever we have done for her so far, that should be informed to the higher center, and a proper referral letter. That is very important as far as this is concerned. As again, as we are saying, documentation, whatever we have done.
Yes, and definitely a referral letter, what you have done, if you can send an accompanying person, you need to arrange the ambulance, the transport also, see to it that you are communicating with the referral person also, and you may have to, check for the availability of beds in that center also. So these are very good practices, and I think all of us have learned over the years that this is how we need to refer a patient who is sick. You cannot just send the patient like that. So I think these are the very good, nice points Dr. Pramila has pointed out to us. So I don't want to go into all these cases. I just want to talk to you about one case, Dr. Deepa, if you want to take up this. She is a primary gravida, 38 weeks. She went into spontaneous labor. The estimated fetal weight was 3.7 kg. Labor was augmented with oxytocin. However, the second stage went to 1.5 hours. There was a shoulder dystocia. Patient came out hypoxic and suffered hypoxic injury. What are the key points in this patient? We did have some discussion on shoulder dystocia, if you can summarize it.
So basically, we cannot accurately predict it, but we have to be prepared for it for every vaginal delivery.
Right. So, and you're right. So what do you think that from a medical legal point of view, once a shoulder dystocia has occurred, how would you go about, not your management has been done, but what do you think you should do next?
Proper.
Yes, go ahead.
See, I think management, it requires, once we have diagnosed or we are seeing a shoulder dystocia, we have to call for help, all that, evaluate everything. Then all the menus has to be tried, and it has to be properly documented. It has to be well documented. That is the foremost thing, I think, according to the medico legal point of view, that has to be done.
Yeah, and there is, if you go onto the Royal College website, and if you go onto the, there is a guidelines for shoulder dystocia, and there's a good documentation sheet is available. Once there is a shoulder dystocia, when it occurred, what all you did, who were all the people present there, and at what time, which maneuver was done, did it yield some result, what was the outcome, which was the next maneuver tried. All this, I think you should be documenting, and properly document has been mentioned. The communication needs to be done with the patient, the relatives, and a good a neonatologist has to be there present in this situation. So all these things are important in case of a shoulder dystocia. That means whether you have done each and everything which a prudent obstetrician or average, the healthcare setup with a prudent obstetrician should be doing. If you have done that, and in spite of that, if there is an hypoxic baby, whether a neonatologist was there to take care of the baby. So that situation has to be nicely described in your case sheet, and that is how you go about in this case scenario. So these are the common scenarios in which, you know, the litigations can occur: improper diagnosis, improper monitoring, improper interpretation of CTGs, improper application of any instrument, or conduction of labor causing some problems. So you have to remember 2-3 things. One, whether if that litigation, what that area was preventable, what did you do to prevent any situation to occur, and how did you manage? Did you manage it in a in a prudent way, whether an average gynecologist could have done, and whether you have documented it correctly? These are the things. So if any, then another situation where litigations are common is recurrence. So again, things which are come into consideration, whether this recurrence was preventable, what did you do to prevent it? Could you diagnose it? How did you manage it? And of course, when you come to certain things from medical legal point of view in labor is timely intervention, whether you have done good monitoring. If the monitoring has been done well, then timely decisions for cesarean section may give a better outcome, involving a second gynecologist in management and your record keeping. This all will save us from charges of negligence, following protocols, documenting, keeping your staff well trained, trainings and drills, having a system of hospital in, you know, working pattern should be good, keeping good relationship with your colleagues, and as rightly said by Dr. Varke, having a good indemnity of at least 1 crore. So doctors are actually very poor at record keeping. And rightly said, if you have a COVID-19 situation, then you have a different set of things which you have to keep in mind in the pandemic also. So our medical legal experts have been telling us that we should have a basic legal knowledge and always obtain medical legal advice when we are in doubt. So be vigilant, follow the labor ward protocols with adequate supervision and monitoring, talk of communication, counseling and consent, documentation, record keeping, and also audit. You know, if you have some patients who where something has happened, gone wrong, or mishap is there, always there should be a debrief, briefing and debriefing and auditing. So that is how we can save ourselves. And of course, let us remember that not to think of too much medical legal, but follow our protocols and do what can be done in emergency. And that is where half the time we can be saved. But of course, documentation and record keeping is also there. So thank you very much, Dr. Reena, Dr. Nishi, Dr. Pramila, Dr. Deepa, and we do have Dr. Sanjay Gupte sir and Dr. Ajit also with us. So thank you very much for being there till the end. And I think it has taken a long time for us, but almost 3 hours and more. But thank you for all those inputs. And Dr. Ajit, for your comments, please. Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Ajit?
Dr. Surekha, it was a very wonderful session. Actually, very, very wonderful, very useful. Actually.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to an end. We'd like to ask Dr. Rashmi for the formal vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Surekha, madam. It was indeed an honor to have such esteemed faculties with us today for this webinar. We are extremely thankful to respected chief guests, Dr. Sanjay Gupta sir and Dr. Ajit sir, and guests of honor, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar madam and Dr. Venu Gopal sir. We are also very much thankful to our chairpersons, experts, judges, speakers, faculties, and all the panelists and experts for their kind cooperation, presence, and valuable inputs to this session. We are extremely thankful to Corona Remedies for their kind cooperation and conducting this session flawlessly, and also thankful to my colleague, Dr. Jaya. She has conducted the sessions wonderfully. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and a personal thanks to Rashmi, who is the Joint Secretary of Isoparb. She has been doing all the communication and all the hard work, and Dr. Jaya too. So a very good evening to all of you. Have a good dinner with your family.
And I must mention that Dr. Surekha Taide madam, she's an apt candidate for Clinical Research Committee, FOXI. I request all of you to kindly vote for her. And we wish you, Dr. Surekha madam, best wishes for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so
Have a good
much.
time with family and a nice dinner. Thank you.
This is a very nice session.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It was nice interacting with all of you.